And look at Jochen Hahn and Antonio Albacete. The two of them go flying through the right-hand side, then the left-hand side. Jochen Hahn around the outside, and Lucas Hahn, no father and son, come together on the exit of turn one.
And the best thing about this is the fact that it's still a 15-minute sprint race. They've not extended the time of the race. It's still just like, it's going to be, what, 7 laps as far as I can know?
Yeah. We get to the real nitty-gritty of motorsport.
Cranston and Smith are side by side for the title in the very final race of the season. As we go back up the hill towards the Schumacher-esque, Nils Core clips the back at 10, Simon Povey clips the side of Nils Core. They go over the hill and Povey's around.
Oh my god, that's going to definitely be the thumbnail, and it hit me in the right direction. Thank you so much.
23 cars.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Chaz Draycott Media, and welcome to round number 3 of the FTR Events Production Car Challenge Plus. We're here at the wonderfully flat Snetterton racing circuit here in the United Kingdom on iRacing, and it's going to be a fantastic night of endurance racing combined with 4 different classes of, you guessed it, production cars. We've got the delightful BMW M2 CS cars, we've got the Toyota GR86s, the Mazda MX-5s, and the legendary Volkswagen Volkswagen Jetta TDI Cup cars. We've also got another legend amongst us as well. Paul Jeffrey joins me, Chaz Draycott, in the commentary box. Paul, great to be back alongside you once again, mate. This is a bit closer to home soil this time, isn't it?
Hello, Chaz. Hello, Internet. Yes, it is indeed, and I am grateful that I'm at Snetterton virtually and not in real life, because, as you say, it is something of a bit of a flat autodromo, but not in the Italian sexy way. Although, it does produce good racing, and these cars, Chaz, as we saw last time around, and we've seen times many in the world of iRacing, produce absolutely sensational racing. So, despite it being Snetterton, I'm looking forward to this one a great deal.
Yeah, it should be an absolute belter. I think that one of the best things about Snetterton is the fact that it is a really solid circuit for racing in underpowered cars like this. Cars that don't go too quickly, that have to come to a proper stop, especially around the early section, the infield section of the lap. They really do highlight just how strong this place is. You and I will always remember the days of the old 200 layout, which used to be the full layout, where the BTCC used to race around it. It was only 5 corners, but it was one of the best circuits on the calendar for years, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, thoroughly agree with that one. It's not unlike every track in the history of the world. They've made changes and it's not as good, but so be it. As we say, I enjoy poking fun at Snetterton, but I don't mean it. If you're listening, Snetterton or Snetterton aficionados, I apologise wholeheartedly. It's just for jest. It is a great racetrack though, as you say, and what is particularly exciting is the choice of cars that we've got in the PCC Plus Championship this season. 4 different classes, all very different kinds of car, despite falling under the production car umbrella, and they all produce their own infighting, their own excellent racing, standing on their own 2 feet. So anybody could come out of this one a winner. It's a very different circuit than the Charlotte Roval last time around, and I'm fascinated to see whether the pace deficits or advantages do lie amongst our drivers.
It looks like Alex King has got fed up of being in a BMW and being branded a BMW driver, so he's actually gone back to being in the MX-5 for this round, it seems. We're just going to get that updated on here. We had no word of that, so poor Alex, bless him. He now goes from being really far down in the BMWs to in the top 3 in the MX-5s. I'm sure he'll be a lot happier with that. We've got Chris Chauffeur in the number 23 GR86, bit of a bland livery on Chris's car, we must say. We will give the liveries a quick refresh as well, because the paint pack has been reapplied to these lot. But we've got the wonderful, I mean, half of them out on the track. We've got the lovely Jettas pull a bit more up our street with their sort of touring car, door-to-door, Charlie Cox and John Watson nature. But these lot are always an absolute riot, aren't they?
Oh man, everybody loves a VW Jetta, especially in the racing parlance. Not particularly excited about the racing lines on offer in practice. So, and ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that's a visual representation of what you may expect this evening.
them lot are always an absolute riot, to be fair to them. They are so funny, these boys. They always have a lot of fun. We'll see if we can get a replay of whatever the hell was happening here, because Eric Maninveld went off earlier. Jack Johns is in the mix as well. He had a really solid race, and never mind, the iRacing replay has lobbed us into the next session. But Jack Johns had a fantastic time in the previous race, and happy to say that Brooks Clayton, first driver out on the circuit, is going to be the first driver to get airtime in this one as part of the qualifying session, because Brooks was the first driver to head out on the circuit out of everyone, and we will, well, unfortunately have to look at this incredible livery for even longer, because wasn't this on a GR86 previously? Austin Tucker, I think, yeah. Austin Tucker is the other driver with that livery. They've now adapted it for a BMW M2. Aren't we lucky?
Yep. And by adapted, you mean just open the template, throw it on, save the template, and let's see what happens, because it's definitely a busy livery. But I do like me a busy livery as a commentator. The more noteworthy you can make your car, the easier it is for Chaz and I to poke fun and ridicule whatever performance you do. Again, only a joke. Brooks Clayton, very, very good driver. Be interesting to see where the fabled BMWs end up at the end of the race as well. It's fascinating last time around to see the intermingling of classes as the race progresses. But Chaz, just like I said a few moments ago, Snetterton, very, very different racetrack than the Charlotte Roval that we had last time around. Yeah. So again, kind of get that phone book and you can use it as a guide, but predominantly it's a bit of a fresh start. It's almost a standalone of its own accord, isn't it, this one?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's only 1 or 2 drivers really that have completely stood out for us from the very start of the season, And one of them you have to say is this man, Giovanni Romano, in the BMW M2. He's won both races so far this season in car number 99, and despite the livery being obviously ever so subtle, the driver himself, for no bad reason, has completely stood out to us, because he's had two very, what we call no news is good news races. He's just driven away at the front of the field. Sure, he got a little bit rattled in the first race of the season, but he didn't really have anyone to fight with at the Charlotte Roval. I think it was Tom Mayle, wasn't it, that was fighting him quite hard as well and trying to get moves done at Charlotte. But we've got a considerably smaller grid this time in this race, so the drivers will be yes the drivers will have, to be fair, I'm sure, be glad to not have as much traffic to worry about, because there was a hell of a lot of it at the Charlotte Roval, wasn't there? It was the talking point in most cases of the evening.
Absolutely, and again, because this is such a different circuit, yes, we are on a very quick part of the racetrack here as we cross over the start-finish line, but there's a lot of corners in very close succession. Congestion is a real problem around Snetterton. If you get balked in traffic, it can be difficult to overtake, such is the story of all motor racing, but critically, it can be very easy, Chaz, to get wrapped up in somebody else's problem, and before you know it, through no fault of your own, you could be having a little conversation with the virtual marshals. So I think there'll be certainly, I agree, there'll be an element of relief throughout the field, but there should be a little bit more real estate to play with over the course of this next 100-minute race.
Yes, indeed. Right, well, there's been an interesting update as well, which we feel that, we don't often like to stir the pot, especially not here on Chaz Draycott Media, because as many of you have seen before when I've commentated, I sometimes put my stewarding hat on, which is very easy to do when you've organised leagues, and Paul has done the same before as well. We never shy away from calling our own opinions on an incident. There was quite a standout incident at the Charlotte Roval, which involved the teammate of this man, Miles Owens, and it was from the SRS esports team, and it was their driver, Ivan Bremer. I believe he was the Dutch driver. We saw strange contact between himself and one of the BMWs. There was an announcement by the organisers saying that due to the driving standards displayed by Ivan Bremer during the event at Charlotte, he's received a 2-month ban from all FTR events, after which he'll be allowed to return for future seasons should he wish to do so. Any infractions of that nature will result in an indefinite ban, effective immediately. His result was nullified as well, and to be fair to Dan Pepples and the rest of the team, there was a statement from them as well where they sincerely apologised on behalf of him to anyone affected by that incident, and he's also decided to leave the team apparently as well. He understands the gravity of the situation, and the decision was made independently by Ivan as well. They said it's not reflective of who he is. He's never acted in such a manner before, and everyone involved, obviously, including Ivan himself, was disappointed. So that's the last we'll say on it. But just to give you an update on that, because we actually had a few people asking since the last one, and fair play to FTR as well, because they've come down on it in the right manner and not let that go unnoticed, have they, Paul?
Yeah, exactly, and that's good to see. Quick, decisive action. Everybody concerned is well aware of the gravity of what occurred and has responded accordingly. We all make mistakes. It's incredibly difficult in live sport. Be it virtual, be it real. You get the heat is on sort of thing. You get hot under the collar, and sometimes things do happen that in the cold light of day you look back on and think, no idea why that came, how that came about, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of self-reflection, but I'm a big fan, Chaz. Let's spin it round to a positive note before we move off of the topic. I'm a big fan of any kind of adversity and negativity and difficult things that occur in life. You use those as ammunition, as fuel, as tools to do better in future, and I'm sure it was a painful lesson, but a lesson nevertheless, and if that's heeded, taken on board, he'll stand that driver in very good stead for the rest of his virtual racing career, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. At the moment, then, factually, it is Giovanni Romano, fastest, but only 7 thousandths of a second on a 2-minute lap. He's 7 thousandths of a second slower than... Sorry, Richard Cawthron is 7 thousandths slower. Then it's Ben Chalcraft and then Brooks Clayton. Then we've got 3 GR86s, Ryan Chevalier, Austin Tucker and Georg Gruber. Chris Flamion is the quickest in the MX-5s at the moment for the huge-ass racing team. Then we've got Alex King, Martin Pearson and Tom Weston. Henry Morse is the quickest at the moment in the VW Jettas. Henry, an absolute star in the British Boring Car Championship previously. He's ahead of Patrick Dopart, Stephen King, Eric Maninveld, Sam Van Olst and Jack Johns is back with us in the Pulsars car again. Still a number of drivers though, Paul, with no laps on the board at the moment.
Yeah, that's a dangerous, dangerous tactic to take. Of course, it's solo qualifying, so you're not going to get wrapped up in anybody else's traffic. And you do have 10 minutes in which to complete your qualifying stint, of which 3 minutes and 19 remain on the clock. So there is time for those drivers that have yet to put the pedal to the metal, so to speak, to get out there and set their lap time. But Chaz, as you know, and anybody who's listened to any of my commentaries before knows, I am the biggest fan in the whole wide world of a banker lap. Not a big fan of leaving it to the death.
No.
I like to get out there, wind up the times. It's the safest course of action. But then again, I'm a commentator and not a driver, so what do I know? I'm sure these boys know a heck of a lot more than me.
Well, to be fair, we always do say, isn't there, don't we, Paul, that there's reason that we are commentators and not drivers. I think if they let the pair of us out on a circuit together, there would be endless damage done to the track itself. But still, we'd have a laugh doing it, I know that much. Still, great to see these drivers really having to push it here at Snetterton. There is a lot of sort of start-stop sections in this track, but it's a real commitment circuit, isn't it, in places, especially here, around the second to last corner into Murray's. It's very, very tricky to get right.
Oh yeah, absolutely agree with that one. I mean, this corner 175 kilometres an hour in a GT3 car. Of course, we're going a little bit slower on this occasion. And then you've got to get the car stopped through that final turn. Murray's so frustrating. The car always wants to push on. You as a driver always think there's a little bit more lap time to be found. And it's very difficult that you've got to skirt the balance between pushing too hard, but also keeping it clean and tidy. And Chaz, in these cars, that is all the more important because all four of these classes are momentum cars. They do not appreciate being ragged around the racetrack. It's not the quickest way to get to your destination.
No, it absolutely isn't. You have to be really precise and just carry momentum everywhere that you can. As you can see on the left-hand side, everybody, we have the different classes in this field. Just going to see if I can bring this up and... the text has gone black. Okay, I do apologise. But the classes on the left-hand side, the top red is the BMWs, the darker red is the GR86s, the silvery colour is the MX-5s, and the dark grey is the Jettas. And as you see, we've got that interesting mix at the moment, haven't we, Paul, where the GR86s and the MX-5s, they've got different power, different cornering abilities, and they do tend to mingle a little bit in the centre of the pack, even though they will start on the grid in different positions. It's going to be quite exciting to see.
Yeah, it really is. That was one of the standout takeaways from me from the Roval last time around is, yes, these cars and these groups all start separately, but the way they merge together, the speed in which they sort of merge together as the race unfolds it's a little bit like the real-life Daytona 24 hours that's been going on, but a heck of a lot more bland because we're at Snetterton, of course. What is it? That's spicy. And around we go. And Chaz, perfect illustration of what we're talking about. Through Coram, the car wants to over-rotate. You've got to get it slowed down for Murray's, and you either go off or you pirouette like we've just seen.
That was Pedro Barbosa in the BMW, and that was his final lap in qualifying as well, and he didn't get a time on the board. So he'll be starting from the back of his class, which luckily for him this week is only 6 cars long, so he's not going to lose too much with this qualifying session not going his way, but he'll still be disappointed to have not put a time on the board. Justin Michaela is not out there on the circuit, and I'm just seeing if he was involved in any previous incidents. Just having a look through the protests. There was an incident with Jake Cranstone. He got a 45-second penalty as qualifying comes to an end on the dot. But there was nothing with Justin Michaela, so I'm not quite sure why he's not gone out in qualifying. But we have a little warm-up session now, so we can have a look at the results of quali, and we'll do it class by class, shall we, so you can all get an idea of who has come where. You can see then, in the BMWs, it's Giovanni Romano fastest by nearly half a second in the end. He improved over Richard Cawthorpe by quite the margin. Ben Chalcraft, third place for him, starting from the second row on the grid with that gorgeous Schnitzer tribute car. It's going to look fantastic round here. Antonio Alvarez in fourth position joins him on the second row. Then it's Brooks Clayton and Pedro Barbosa on row 2. The next class on the circuit, Paul, will be the GR86s. Why don't you take it away with those?
Yeah, the GR86, 6 cars are represented in this class, and it's Austin Tucker who's the fastest driver with a 2 minutes 5.951. He's just ahead of Ryan Chevalier. 4/10 of a second, a healthy margin again at the front of the field. George Gruber is third on the grid. Joining him on the second row is John Paynton. Paynton, a lot of time he needs to find to trouble our front runners. And then, of course, we've got Chris Schofer in 5th, and Carson Caitlin will round up the top 6 for the Toyota GR86 class.
Thanks very much, Paul. On to the MX-5s. We've got 7 of them here today. Chris Flamion on pole position there. He's got about 0.3 of a second over Alex King. Martin Pearson not too far back either. Martin, let's not forget, had a belter at the start of the season. He's going to want to repeat that. Miles Owens, he was absolutely on form. So too was Dan Pepples at Charlotte. No Dan here this evening. Tom Weston in the 787. It may still be a Mazda, but it's definitely not a 787. He is in 5th place ahead of Matt Acton. Car number 1. Is that arrogance? Is that earned? Let's see. Justin Michaela in car number 18. And I've got a very nerdy fact about that I'm not going to bring out. Let's go to the Jettas.
Yep, VW Jetta's my favourite class in the whole wide world. They may be diesel, but they are amazing. And Henry Morse is the driver that pedalled the car quickest. 2 minutes 8.896 for pole position, just ahead of Patrick Dopar in 2nd place. Look at the gaps, folks. It's going to be tight at the front of the field. Stephen King takes a break from writing books, and he starts in 3rd position alongside Eric Manitveld. In 5th place is Sam Van Ols. Jack Johns joins him in 6th position, and then it is Jermaine Agard in 7th and last in class, 1.2 seconds away from the overall quickest class time.
I just had word as well, Paul, that Alex King has just signed up in the wrong car. It's as simple as that. So he's going to be racing in the MX-5 tonight, but he's not going to be taking any championship points, I believe, is the stance. I was going to say something very sad and miserable about the number 18 car, Justin Michaela, in the Mazda MX-5 class. Now, the number 18 is the racing number that you are handed in the phenomenal racing game Tucker Race Driver back on the PlayStation 2 back in day, because apparently your sort of segment in the game, and that number 18 was given to none other than Andy Prio when he raced instead of Phil Bennett in the British Touring Car Championship, because Bennett was an absolute moron and got a few race bans for smacking off the side of other Vauxhalls. But yeah, you take on effectively what would have been Andy Prio as Tucker Race Driver, and I only learned that a few years ago.
So I have 2 takeaways from that one. Number 1, upgrading your driver from Phil Bennett to Andy Prio. Bravo.
Get in.
And number 2, my respect for you was diminished massively because it's Toka. Toka.
Yes.
Which is a pet hate of mine. Toka, Chaz Draycott. Toka, people.
And we thought you were the northern one. I call it Tucker. Oh, Tucker. I'm going to go home on PlayStation and play Tucker.
Do you know, that game, though, for anybody who's watching that's a little bit older or likes their retro gaming, goodness gracious me, at the time, and people who are younger than Chaz and I will not understand this one, the mind-blowing graphics where you could see the headlights on the track. I remember at the back of the box.
Yeah.
There's a photo of Alan Menu's, an in-game photo, obviously. Hey, look at that one, Gabriele Tarquin, yes. There's a photo of Menu's Laguna, and I think he was at Donington in the rain, and you could see the light shining off the tarmac behind him. Good God, man, the amount of hours I've stared at that one going, this is the pinnacle of everything that
You're thinking Toka 2 touring cars,
Oh, am I thinking 2, am I? Not 1. I'm
meaning Toka Race Driver. That was where you were Ryan McCain and you had a career and all sorts.
Oh, dude, that one I've wiped from my memory. Toka 1 and 2, yes. Toka 3 or Race Driver, or but they started putting storyboards in it and things. You can keep it. That's not really that at all.
Well, I did an entire playthrough of it on my YouTube channel. If anyone wants to see the awful graphics that I, again, thought were mind-blowing back then on that, yeah, give that a go. That game has some of the strangest driving physics I've ever witnessed, and I got very upset at it. But still, I took the absolute Michael out of the storyline and, yeah, said things about the protagonist's mum and all sorts. It was brilliant. But, yeah, still, there's a race going on here tonight. It's about to get underway. And Paul and I have found our first tangent. To be fair, it's a very flat surface here at Snetterton, so tangents are easy to find. Just go disappearing off into the trees. Still, we've got an interesting one ahead of us here, Paul, because there's a smaller grid this time. Less traffic for the drivers to think about in theory. Less time for them to worry about the other classes and just fight each other. This should be pretty spicy, this, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it really should. It's one of those tracks where, on paper, it's a very simple circuit, but in real life, of course, we don't race on paper. As Chaz, our grid is on the screen of all our beautiful drivers.
Indeed. Thank you very much, mate. So, as we've just recapped, it's Giovanni Romano and Richard Cawthorne on the front row. Ben Chalcraft and Antonio Alvarez on row 2. Brooks Clayton and Pedro Barbosa round out the BMW M2s. Then it's Austin Tucker and Ryan Chevalier, and following them is Georg Gruber and John Payton in the top 10. We have then Chris Schofer alongside Carson Catlin on the 6th row. And then we come down to the MX-5s. It's Chris Flamion and Alex King. Martin Pearson and Miles Owens alongside each other on row 8, ahead of Thomas Weston and Matt Acton. Justin Michaela is the final MX5, as noted before. He didn't get a time on the board, so he's actually been popped up into the MX5 class, although it doesn't look like he's actually going to take to the grid, unfortunately. And then it's the Jettas at the back. We've got Henry Morse ahead of Patrick Dopart, Stephen King, Eric Mannenveld and Sam van Olst, and Jack Johns and Jeremy Agard. And it looks like there's been some shenanigans going on with the Jettas already. Jeremy Agard wanting to get going side by side with car 22. A lot of them breaking ranks here, it seems. Jack Johns decided to move forward ahead of all the others, and now they've somehow got to figure this grid out.
Mind games, that's all that is. Mind games. Cause a bit of confusion before we even go green flag racing. I do like that little mind games. Half of the racing battle, it's not one on the track, it's one in the head. And if you can get one over on your rival, you're already chomping at the bit to get going on this one. So, Chaz, take a breath for the last time for the next hour or 100 minutes, because I reckon this one's going to be pretty much non-stop.
I reckon this is going to be an absolute belter. Like we've said, though, less traffic for them to think about, but that does mean that the outright pace in each individual class is going to be more important here. Is that more of a chance for Giovanni Romano to get ahead? We'll have to wait and see. We look back from his car right now with Ben Chalcraft just behind in that gorgeous Schnitzer throwback, but it's got the Saltaire Brewery branding all over it instead of any sort of BMW dealerships. Looks, I think he's got a Wintershall BMW dealer written on the back of it or something. But all eyes on Giovanni Romano then, as he heads to the start-finish line. Ben, you see there, holding the brakes behind him, building it up, getting ready to go. And the M2s will be the first cars to lead us away for round 3 of the FTR Events Production Car Challenge Plus. And listen to these M2s get off the line. They sound mega. Lovely noise from the 6 cylinders. Here come the GR86s, Paul.
Yeah, great start again. Little battle pack, beautiful cars, very different from the BMWs, but just as good as we head down to the first pinch point of the lap.
And now the MX-5's following on as well. Chris Flamion ahead of Martin Pearson, Alex King, Thomas Weston, and then the Diesel Brigade. The clean diesel Jettas fly around turn 1, probably flat for them actually, because they're so good in terms of just outright pure grip. We've had a change for the lead though, as Richard Cawthorne on the exit into Palmer's has got ahead of Giovanni Romano. Can you believe this?
That's a beautiful early signal of intent for Cawthorne, but Romano to the outside now, trying to find a way back past. You don't want to be on the outside line. It is a very risky place to find yourself, and I think that's a wise bit of driving to slot back into second position. It's better to live to fight another day than throw it away so early.
Yeah, you don't want to really go for it down the inside here into Hamilton, though. That is a very tight place to try and manoeuvre. We're going board with Ben Chalcraft in third position. He gets a look forward at this battle for the lead. He's waiting to pick up the pieces here because he knows this could all go wrong. There's been drama behind, though. Pedro Barbosa and Antonio Alvarez have had an issue. Brooks Clayton's been involved. He's lost the front end of his M2 already. Did anyone tell him it's an endurance race? Some of the others are damaged as well. Antonio Alvarez, I think, is just recovering as the big PP NRG car of Chris Chauffeur sits next to him. We've had Sam van Olst off the track. Well, let's see what happened here, Paul.
Yeah, so let's take a look then. All the cars are close together, of course. This is the opening lap of the race. Very, very easy, as I mentioned at the top of the show, to get wrapped up in somebody else's drama, but that is just a simple case of a little bit too late on the brakes and a secondary contact. That's going to cost more than the initial hit, I do feel, and that's not what you need in such a long-distance race so very early in the running.
Look at these MX-5s now buzzing past John Payton in the GR86. He's been absolutely eaten up by these wasp-like MX-5s as they all buzz around him. The number 78 in there, 787 of Tom Weston. He wants a piece of this. Can't go around the outside of the GR86 there. That's good thinking to make sure he doesn't go for the move early. And look at these. Here come the Jettas over the hill. It's like an elephant march, isn't it? Just as they go around the corner, head out of Murray's, and then they get on the gas. Down, well, I was going to say down the straight, but it's uphill, isn't it, here at Snetterton? It's very deceiving.
Well, the hill's a relative word. For my walking capability, then yes, that's very much a hill. But for anybody who's fitter and younger, I'm sure they can find a way to get through that one. Let's have a look then. Through the first corner with Henry Morse. A lot of seesaw in the wheel. The grip trying desperately to screaming off at these diesel beasts. And this, Chaz, is the best overtaking point. But I think for Morse, yes, he's got enough real estate to have that one covered without needing to go defensive. And these Jettas, it's a little bit of formation flying at this moment in time. You don't want to show your hand too early, so if you get outside of this battle pack, it becomes exceptionally difficult to close back in again.
It absolutely does. Stephen King here in 4th position. They're all using all of the road. That's the art form of driving the Jetta, though. You have to use as much of the road as possible to try and make it work. Austin Tucker has just taken the lead in the GR86s from Ryan Chevalier, but these guys have been swapping places all throughout the first lap. They've got then Georg Gruber and Chris Schofer in behind them as well. They're all so close to each other. This is great stuff. But let's not forget, Paul, the slipstream effect down this back straight is going to be oh so important. It's going to be massive in these GR86s with that little power and that bigger wing.
Especially if you're Chris Schofer, because you've got the benefit of 3 cars breaking a hole in the hair ahead of you. We can see a little bit of battle. No one's really posturing at this moment in time to make a move. There's a few gentle looks here and there, but that's more really to get a clear line of sight for the circuit. Again, this is a very, very difficult corner here at Snetterton. Everybody makes it through, and in fact, Chris Schofer very, very nearly has himself a bit of excitement at the back of that pack, and that's lost him a couple of tenths.
Yeah, just a little bit there for him, as Carson Catlin, I believe, has had a drama. Is off the circuit in the Luigi colour scheme. He actually sent me a picture of this and said, is this all right to run? I said, absolutely, I love it. But I'm not sure he's going to be too fond of these Jettas trying to sneak up the inside. That's class leader Henry Morse showing no remorse at all for any other classes around him. He might send this in Morse code, or it's more like Braille as he heads into Murray's. Now tries to sweep round the outside. Oh, this is going to get spicy here. I hope Carson Catlin's got eyes in the back of his head.
You do not want to be Carson Catlin at this moment in time, because that's a train. That's the longest VW Jetta in the world making its way past, because it's 5 cars cut and shut, glued together as one. As we head now in a T1, the outside line. This is a risky place to be if you're Catlin. He's desperately trying to find a way to sneak back into this battle pack, and I think he's got it done behind the Mr. Blobbery liveried car. Big prize for car number 32. I like that livery. Head down into the hairpin. You're vulnerable to the inside again. He's giving plenty of room to the cars around him.
Mate.
Catlin Silver, look at that. He gave him all the room in the world, but actually we needed the universe to make it through.
Yeah, Jack Johns there, unfortunately, showing off some of the driving I told him off for a few years ago. He seemingly just drove through the back of Carson Catlin there. I think that was a little bit unfair on the poor little GR86. Let's have a look. It looked like he was giving him the room. He tried to go down the inside. Maybe Carson comes back across the apex. I think Jack doesn't really give the other car anywhere to be, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's front-wheel drive Tux, dear. Very much in action there. The car just runs so wide, and unfortunate, 2 cars coming together, same bit of tarmac. Sadly, somebody has to go and nose into the barriers, and that was, on this occasion, Catlin. Hopefully, not too much damage, and that car can continue cycling back to the BMWs at the front of the field, and Corthero still has an advantage, but look at Romano posturing in 2nd position. Charles Crafton, the beautiful BMW. I echo your comments on that one. The Schnitzer throwback livery reminds me of touring cars of the 1990s. I absolutely adore that one, and somehow, even with curious sponsorage, just works, doesn't it?
It does look right. That's the thing. The logos and the branding on it is still so similar to the original that it just works. It just looks right. We've got Ryan Chevalier following a car that definitely doesn't look right. Austin Tucker leading the way in his class. Georg Gruber in there as well, and Chris Schofer, the top 4 in this class, separated by just 1.6 seconds at the end of that previous lap. Fastest lap in the class goes to Gruber that time round, and as the cars get lighter and lighter, obviously the tyres coming up to temperature as well will mean that the lap times do begin to tumble. We've had a change in the lead once again in the Jettas, and Henry Morse, actually no apologies, it was Jack Johns and Eric Mannenveld changing position here. It looked like it was Brooks Clayton actually gaining places on the Jettas outright, because his BMW was catching back up. That's where the lead change happened. You can see the straight line speed difference. This is Jack Johns on Eric Mannenveld, side by side as they head into the left and the right. Lovely move by Jack. Little bit of a kiss by Eric on the exit. Nicely done though. We'll go on board here with Brooks Clayton just so you can see the speed difference of this M2 when it gets on the power and goes up. It's that 4th gear. It's absolutely remarkable. It's taking it nice and easy amongst these Jettas because he knows what the cornering speed's like. But out of here, Paul, it's going to be like a missile, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what you need. When you're trying to work your way through traffic, you need that straight line speed advantage just to make life that little bit easier for you. Some clever driving from Brooks Clayton. There we go, nitros enabled. See you later, alligator. BMW clear of VW Jettas, and that should for Brooks Clayton at least, hopefully, be the last time he's involved in that battle pack for a while at least.
He'll be hoping. Austin Tucker will hope that he's not involved in this battle pack anymore as well. We look back with Ryan Chevalier in there and Georg Gruber wanting a piece of this as well. These guys had some fantastic fights back at Charlotte a few weeks ago, and look at that, from the lead down into third place goes Tucker, or does he? Because he gets a great run on the exit. Gruber's in there as well. He has to back out of that one. Where is Chris Schofer in all this? There's a neon green car in there somewhere. He's chasing all these guys down. He wants an extra position from this. Fantastic respect and battling from these GR86s. You can see the guys dabbing the brakes there, Paul, just to make sure they don't go into the back of one another. But look how much it upsets the rear end of that car.
Yeah, this is a high level of class that we're seeing from these drivers now. They're desperately not wanting to interfere with each other's race in a negative way, but still want to race very hard indeed. Chauffeur, still the fourth car in this four-car battle, keeping a watching brief. He doesn't look particularly hungry, at least at this stage in the race, to get too heavily involved, and that's intelligent racecraft. Don't want to squabble with these cars. Don't risk damage. Don't risk any drama. As long as you're in this pack, you are A-OK. If you start getting detached from it, that's where your problem falls. So for Chris Schofer, he's in a very comfortable position at this moment in time. As look here, what's that I hear you say? That's a lot of very irritatingly loud cars. Close it up.
Little buzzy MX-5s knocking about, one of the finest cars on iRacing, a lovely, lovely racing machine. There was quite the accident with them at Daytona over the weekend at lap 1. If you haven't seen it, everybody, you know, knowing that all drivers are okay means that we can say it is hilarious. It just reminds us of bottom split official lobbies. It's absolutely hilarious fun.
A fun story about that one, my dad came round a little bit earlier on, and I've not seen race 2 of the Mazdas. I saw race 1, absolute cracker. Watching Daytona, he doesn't know much about IMSA and everything else. I'm like, oh, have you seen these Mazdas? They're brilliant, they're brilliant. Put it on, saw that crash. He went, yeah, maybe that's not the best example.
Yeah, definitely not. Romano has got past Cawthron for the lead. He does it down the inside here, and then he manages to have enough speed around the outside to then get it done. Great respect here by Cawthron, though. Look, just gives him enough racing room. Side by side, they're quite big cars, these M2s, but then around him he goes. A little bit of a hit on the curb there really slowed him down. I've been told that Alvarez has unfortunately gone off the circuit. I think he's had a bit of a drama into this left-hander. If we had a quid, yep, straight on, decides to straight line it, doesn't want to cause himself more of a headache. Fair play to him. But the MX-5s, yeah, like I say, one of the finest little cars to race on iRacing. A great way to sort of cut your teeth in rear-wheel drive cars that have enough power to spin up the rears. You know, they're soft and they're lively, they bobble about. I'm actually racing the MX-5 on Tuesday night. We're doing a special club racing event in a community that I help run the events for and broadcasts for, and we're doing the Renault Clio at Donington Park, then we're jumping in a Formula Ford around this place, and then the MX-5s at Silverstone National. We're going to have a little bit of a celebration of club racing, and it's going to be hilarious, and I'm so excited to get back behind the wheel properly.
Yeah, I love that. All those combinations, actually, they're very much my kind of cars. It's like back to the VW Jettas, and once again, last time we checked in, there were 4 cars squabbling over the same piece of tarmac. Scratch that one, let's make that 7. Here we go. Despite all of the dramas that we're seeing, cars damage, people off the racetrack, we have still got so many intense fights for position throughout all 4 classes, as Patrick Dopar still having a little look at the 24, but I reckon a defensive posture might well be the right course of action now, as in second place, Crawthorne, sorry, not Crawthorne, my mistake, goes defensive, is Henry Moore at the front of the field.
Oh, now you've got Patrick Dopart and Stephen King side by side. Stephen King, while he's not writing a new book, he won't want to back down from a fight. Doesn't quite go for it, though, through Palmer's. We'll look back here at Henry Morse. It's a very dull noise to go with it, which is great because it means you can commentate and focus on the racing a little bit easier in these things. I'm happy to say there will be another British Boring Car Championship in 2025 later on in the year, so we'll be seeing more of these Volkswagen Jettas. But it's just great to see these lads all together on circuit again. You know, these have all raced together in multiple series together before, especially the Racing Line Jetta TDI Cup that was organised by the very lovely gentleman Jack Johns in the middle of this group. He's got a great community that follow him and his antics, and these guys supported him very well through all of that, and they're some of the best drivers in the world in these Jettas. I would not want to sign up into this series knowing that I was going to be in a Jetta against this lot, because they dominate the official races whenever that comes around, and they have done for years now, and they all got together into a great community to race them in private leagues, and everywhere you put the Jetta, these guys will come, and they will make well, I was going to say a mockery of them, but not in a bad way, you know what I mean? They'll just show everybody how to drive this car, how to drive it that closely through a corner like that without hitting each other, and just give brilliant, brilliant racing.
Yeah, that was a beautiful visual of exactly what you were saying there, wasn't it, Dopart? As good as painted to the rear of Henry Morse. Beautiful stuff. We're right on board with Patrick now. We'll be thinking about the inside line, but he'll be thinking about the slipstream that comes after this corner, which is all the more important. All about getting a good launch off the turn. Not too bad at all, it seems, for Dopart. Now, will he have the slipstream? It's about even Stevens. He'll be checking his mirrors, making sure he's not vulnerable to attack from behind. He'll be having a little think, the outside line, oh so inviting. The number 14 leaves the door open. Doesn't have the overlap though, and that from Dopart is very intelligent because Chaz is lining up for the hairpin.
Oh, he's hit that curve on the inside though, and he's left it a little bit late. We'll have to see what he can do. He's late on the brakes. Henry Morse puts the car in the perfect place. This is a carbon copy of the earlier lap, this is, because now look, Stephen King's on the right-hand side. He's not going to have enough of an overlap before Palmer's. There's a move in the background, though. That was Sam van Olst and Jeremy Agard swapping position. Jeremy now drops to the back of this 7-car train. He becomes the backseat driver, so to speak. But it is just one unit making its way around the circuit. It's absolutely mega to see it. Agard wants to come back now at Sam van Olst. Doesn't work this time round for him. And they continue to buzz around together. Back to the front in the GR86s. And Chevalier, now he has that lead. Starting to open it up a little bit here, Paul. Half a second, and then Georg Gruber another 4/10 back. He's looking a little bit more comfortable now, but how long is that going to last? Because it's not easy to keep a lap together around here. And also, Brooks Clayton in the BMW will soon arrive on the scene.
Yeah, that's the big joker in the pack, isn't it? It's this car, the number 9 of Brooks Clayton. He's going to be involved in this one, and anybody who watches any form of multi-class racing will know masses and masses of time are to be won or lost when dealing with traffic. You've got a fast BMW want to make its way through. It's going to compromise the GR86 drivers ahead. That's a guarantee. It's almost certain. The big question is, if you're in one of those GR86s and you're in this battle pack, you want to make sure that you can take advantage of it. As there we go,
look at the
down
speed of
the
it.
back straight. Look at that.
That's a joke, isn't it? That is an
That's faster
absolute...
than I expected, actually.
That is an absolute joke. What is that? It's like putting a GT3 car against a soapbox. It's just incredible.
I've got to admit, I never expected him to clear all 3 cars before we even get to the braking zone. I thought this was going to be a little bit more dramatic.
That's balmy. Absolutely balmy. I love it. He nearly went wide at turn 1 though, actually, did Brooks Clayton. I don't think he expected it to be that quick either. He nearly went off on the exit of the first corner, but he manages to keep it together. Unbelievable stuff. And now, as we thought, that has ignited the battle for the lead again, because the gap between all 3 of them before was 0.7 of a second. And now it's, well, barely that, because it's about 4. They're so close. Gruber's dropped off a little bit on the exit of that corner, admittedly. But Tucker is now looking very, very racy behind Chevalier. He wants that lead back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit of a shame almost that BMW cleared these cars so easily. I really did not expect that. In a straight line, 3 cars is absolutely wild. But let's ride on board then with Austin Tucker. Car number 243. Currently second position, my mistake, in the Toyota GR86 class. But that's a healthy half a second advantage that our class leader Chevalier has at this moment in time. That's going to get gobbled up as we go under the bridge and into the left-hander, hard on the brakes for the right-hander. But so far, this is, I was just about to say, the difference between these two is a mistake, and right on cue the mistake.
Yeah, he just hit that curve a little bit too hard. Car's going to feel awful now. He was off on the marbles, off on the grass for a second. iRacing's late update to the sort of debris refresh, as they call it, with all the marbles and the bits that get drawn onto the circuit, has certainly made the circuit even more dynamic than it was before. So you have to be careful with doing things like that, because Ryan Chevalier is not in a safe place right now with Austin Tucker. Well, he's Tucker under the wing, isn't he? And look behind them as well, Georg Gruber. He's right in this as well. This could be spicy down to turn 1 unless... Oh, no, he's playing the long game here, is Tucker. I like to see a bit of that. Interesting.
Yeah. That's very intelligent, actually. We know that Richard is a difficult corner to go too wide. You really want to get Montreal. This is the hairpin that we're coming to now. That's the key overtaking position. But as you're absolutely bang on the money there, Chaz. It doesn't look at all like there's any appetite from Tucker to make a move unless there's a big big mistake from Chevalier. Chevalier will recognise that in the yellow car. He'll be aware of that one. That'll release a bit of pressure, for now at least, from this particular battle pack. But so far, intelligent driving, just see where you are with the rival, look after your car, and just wait for an opportunity that is absolutely gift-wrapped rather than taking a chance. But look at that one, Chris Chauffeur. He's dropped. He had some kind of problem because Chauffeur has dropped multitudes of seconds in fourth.
He's just had a drama off the circuit, and there's just been a drama in the Jettas as well. Dopart and Manintveld have both been off. Chauffeur went off the circuit here just earlier. Lost a bit of time here. That's going to ruin his run down the straight. Doesn't want to stay stuck on it. Unfortunately, Patrick Dopart and Eric Manintveld have had an issue here. Dopart in second position in this queue. Oh, he's got into the ABS.
Oh, no.
Oh. Manintveld got into the ABS, and these cars, I mean, when you get into that, it is nightmare fuel. Let's have a look from Manintveld here. He's already hit the back of Jack Johns. He moves to the right, goes for it on the brakes. Oh, Jack moves over a little bit. I don't know if he intends to move over, but as soon as Manintveld goes slightly sideways, he just absolutely smacks into Patrick Dopart, who unfortunately was second in this class. This is going to look and sound horrific. Oh. That's a lot of emissions avoiding tin, isn't it? I was just about to say that we had an incredible battle in the Jettas, because I was going to say one thing I love about this series the most is you can look at a camera like this, you can go to this car, look back like that, and there's just a train of 7. But instead of the Jettas doing that this time, we've actually got the MX-5s doing it, because we've got 5 of them battling for the lead just like this, down the start-finish straight. Look at them. This is the lead battle after 20 minutes of racing, and this again is why we love the MX-5 so much, Paul. The slipstream in this car is, well, second to none, really. I'd say only legends are more slipstream. Here's Miles Owen says, you know what, then, if you're going to push him, I'll go around you. Stuff it. Have a bit of that.
Absolutely superb stuff from these MX-5 cars. I think Owens, though, doesn't quite have the legs to keep that. In fact, look at this one. It never quite worked out, so now he's been swallowed up from the pack. That's King trying to get involved, and Weston trying to get involved. Weston almost gets spirited straight on to the inside retaining wall. He avoids it in the white liveried car, has to drop back again. But goodness me, this is one of those where you're looking half in front, half at the side, half behind, and half up in the air. It's almost impossible as a driver. And credit to where credit's due, Chaz. These drivers are doing an absolutely sterling job at this moment in time. Entertaining hard, but crucially fair.
Yeah, it's fantastic racing, and especially in a car as well that, you know, it's not the hardest car on iRacing to drive, but it's also far from the easiest. It really does like to get loose, does this MX-5. You can trust it to a limit. You can get really, really sideways in so many places. You'll see Thomas Weston here just fighting the car a little bit here and there. And the back end loves to spin around, and they'll have open setups as well, so a lot of these guys will have it right on the knife edge, have a very oversteery car, and somehow they are able to battle, and they are able to make sudden adjustments this way and that way and still keep the thing on the road while also not hitting each other. It's excellent, excellent fun. It's great to see Martin Pearson back on form, though. He's right at the front of this MX-5 pack. He's had a little bump at the front, little bump at the rear. He's been amongst it since day one, but he's ahead of Chris Fleming right now in the huge-ass racing team number 8. Love that livery on that car, by the way. It's a very, very striking-looking car. Same with Owens and King as well. Some great-looking race cars in this field. But excellent racing above all else. And the funny thing is now, Paul, they've spread out a little bit here by a few tenths each around this final couple of corners. As soon as they get on the start-finish straight now, we're going to have that accordion effect where the slipstream just brings them back together.
Yeah, it's wonderful, isn't it? It's wonderful. Just watch them sucker back together again. Next time we get to the halfway mark of this lap, I think you'll find that all these cars will be squabbling for each other. But Martin Pearson doing an absolutely grand job in the 301 at this moment in time, lapping at a good pace as well, trying to take advantage of the fresh air that he has around him. Because, of course, we all know, you know, Chaz, I know, the good people watching on Chaz Draycott Media on YouTube know, when you are squabbling, you are not going as fast as you can possibly go. And that is going to lose you time. So for Pearson, big job now is to hit your markers, be pinpoint precise, and just try desperately to claw away from those cars challenging behind. Not easy, but I think Martin Pearson feels like he's up for the challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think these guys all know that they're on similar pace to one another to at least stick together around a circuit like this. And let's face it, you know, the slipstream on the huge straights that we have here at Snetterton will keep these cars naturally together so long as you're potent enough round the twisty bits. Alex King as well. Let's remember he's usually in the BMW, and he's doing a fantastic job tonight running in the MX-5. He did actually submit a... hang on. He did say earlier, just know I registered the wrong car, so no BMW just... Oh, there's damage on Chris Schofer's car.
That's not worked out well.
He said he's just doing Miata, which I think is what MX-5 means in American. But yeah, Alex... he's still got a livery for that, which is what interests me. So surely he was going to sign up in the MX-5 at one point. I think at the start of the season, actually, at Navarra, I had him down as an MX-5, but he changed to the BMW late on, so he's still got a livery for both, which really works out for him, to be fair, considering that he signed up in that by accident. But yeah, he's certainly doing very, very well with it. Let's have a look at Chris Schofer's drama, though, shall we? Where's this? Oh, that's into Williams, isn't it? Oh, he's going to clip the grass here. Oh, no.
Ooh, and that's a big hit as well. That is a big, big hit. That's very unfortunate for Chris. We've seen him in a bit of strife already. Lost the car a couple of times. Lost a lot of time to the leading pack. And sadly for Chris, that's a very, very easy mistake to make. The car walks itself to the outside line. You try and turn and accelerate on grass, and a bad time will come your way quicker than a quick thing in Quicksville. So Chris Schofer... I think, Chaz, that's probably going to be Chris's sign to say, you know what, it's not working for tonight. Let's knock it on the head.
Yeah, he is sat in the pits. He's actually had his fast repair, and you know what? Fair play to him. He's gonna head back out on circuit. At the end of the day, with the championship having less drivers out there tonight, even if you have a lonely race, I mean, John Payton, bless him, he's had a very lonely race so far this evening, but he's still going to get a top 5 in class, so long as he finishes, really, at this point. Carson Catlin is a minute and a quarter behind in the 98 car after his dramas earlier on. Eric Manentveld is back out on the circuit again, having a lonely race, but it's a long old race, plenty can happen. You may as well stick it out and just continue on in the form that you're on your own and just get some points out of it, because surely you're going to score a decent amount. Giovanni Romano, after taking the lead, has started to disappear now. He was half a second quicker than Richard Cawthron on the last lap. Before that, he was 0.8 quicker on the previous lap. He is flying regardless of the fact that he's got 2 different classes of traffic to get by right now. Cawthron still holding on to second position. He's having a bit of a lonely one. He's 5 seconds ahead of Ben Chalcraft, who is doing a sterling job holding on to a podium position. Pedro Barbosa is 4th, and Antonio Alvarez is just about 5th, just going off the road there, losing a bit of time to Brooks Clayton. But there is some changes here for Alex King, and whoa, hello, having a bit of a battle here with Thomas Weston, back and forth. Great stuff.
Yeah, fabulous. That's going to compromise King massively, though. So Weston very much has an opportunity if the white livery 787 Mazda MX-5 fancies his chances. I don't think so on this occasion for Weston. The inside line to the final corner is not a place you want to find yourself on the racetrack, and that's very much recognised by both drivers. As now it's slipstream time, a bit like NASCAR this one, Chaz. Get yourself glued to the back end of the car in front and pull out at the last possible moment to make the move.
He might push him here, you know, Paul, because of the fact that they've got the other drivers still ahead, and they've got that gap to them now because of that battle. So I think they're going to try and work together, maybe push one another. Gives them a bit of a blink of the lights, almost to say thank you there, actually, as they get round to the first corner. So I think we're going to see a little bit of pushing here from Tom. It'd be wise to not go down the inside like that, really, because I think if they work together, they can catch back up to the lead trio in their class. One thing I'd love to highlight, I'm not sure if everybody else heard it there, but look at the Beamer. But just as the Jettas went into Agostini's on that previous lap, as we were on board with the MX-5s coming down the start-finish straight, you could hear the Jetta tyre squeal from the other side of the track. It was absolutely comical. It sounds like a paper cup being scraped across a wooden table in the background. Just absolutely scraping the life out of these tyres. Oh, Jack tries to cut back across Sam Van Olst. Jack's certainly not scared to put the car in a place and expect others to move out of the way. But that's his feisty nature in these cars, though, and I think sometimes, Paul, you have to be a little bit brutal in something like this, don't you? You can't be too friendly in cars that demand as close a race as this. You have to have a bit of, I don't want to say ego, you have to have the self-belief to, you know, scare others out of the way, the self-confidence, don't you?
It's a touring car. That basically means it's an automated weapon. If you don't touch the other car as you're racing with it, you're not doing it right. So absolutely agree with that one. Elbow sharpened to the nth degree to do well in one of these. We ride on board with Richard Cawthron, and just look how difficult it is to find a spot. Yes, you've got the turbos on that car. Yes, you can whip by in a straight line, but goodness me, you've got to find a gap in which to be in order to get that position taken. And look at that one, a little bit of grass as well for good measure, and now it's time to engage, go faster juice, and clear these drivers as quick as possible. That would have caught Richard's attention somewhat, I think.
Yes, maybe just a little bit. We'll go on now with Ben Chalcroft and see his progress through Jetta Island as he makes his way through the black smokes of diesel. To be fair, actually, the Jetta was marketed as, I think some of them have got it written on the rear banner, but it's clean diesel. I think it was a biodiesel championship, and they obviously tried to sort of hark about the efficiency of the cars. I mean, in this championship, they have limited fuel tanks as well. And the Jetta, I think all the other cars are about between 40 and 50% of their usual fuel tanks. The Jettas have got 14%. It's absolutely amazing how little these cars will run on. But the longer races and everything demanded by these cars were just, you know, they were a fantastic advert for diesel racing. It was, Ben has to have a bit of a communication there. Side by side now as well in the Jettas. Ben's going to back out of this one and let these guys have their own fight. He's going to maybe wait till the back's straight. Johns goes all the way wide and then all the way to the right. This is clever stuff by Ben. Backing out of this as Van Olst goes down the inside of Jack. Jack leaves him just enough room. Oh, he's giving him a tickle on the exit though. Nearly turns in on him as Ben says, you know what, I can stuff these boys before Palmer's and still make the corner. You've got to love that. Jack Johns down the inside, gets it back off Van Olst. Great stuff by all involved there to not have an incident and keep this fight going. You've also got Chris Chauffeur who's thinking, well, you get these flipping VWs out of the way.
So Chris, he's had it's been all the drama and more for Chris Chauffeur, and now look at all these cars. And they're fighting amongst each other as well, which makes it somewhat difficult as a driver to find your way past. We ride aboard with Chauffeur, not got the legs of the BMW, so it doesn't have that advantage on the straight line like the BMW M2 CS racing cars do. So for Chauffeur, he's going to be a little bit cuter. He's going to be a little bit more intelligent about how he's going to make this one. As Sam Van Olst now still in 4th position, still on the back of Jack Johns, and also with all the understeer in the world, helped somewhat by the car behind, maybe giving him a little rat-a-tat-tat.
I think there was a bit of contact between Van Olst and Jack Johns actually, just as they got there. Jacob Money in the chat saying, how I've only just found this, I've got to get involved in the next one. As Sam was a little bit late on the brakes. I think Jack actually came off the brakes there to make sure they didn't make contact. There was a little touch on the exit. Again, Jack just not giving as much room as was needed there. He's been a little bit too feisty in that instance there. Maybe stepping over the line a little bit. But I'm sure, knowing Sam, he will certainly give what's taken. Or give what's given, let's say. As, Chevalier very wide there through Palmer's, and he's going to lose the lead here, surely, if Austin is late enough on the brakes. No, he's not. He's being very clever about this, is Austin, isn't he? I think Georg Gruber's probably going to get a bit frustrated sitting in 3rd.
Yeah, it's almost like nobody wants to take the position off the other driver, do they? There's a lot of intelligent racing. People are biding the time. Let's remember, folks, there's 1 hour and 9 minutes left on the clock. There's a lot of racing. We've got to go down pit lane before the checkered flag waves as well. So really, taking chances on the racetrack, they don't have the rewards at this juncture at least, and what they will do, let's say 40 minutes down the road from now. So you really, it's a bit like, I often say, it's a bit like NASCAR. You've got to be in it right to the very end. There's another change of position in the VW Jettas. Yeah,
this is what happened down the start-finish straight between these pair then. They changed around so many times on the timing software, it's filled my, what we call the event viewer, that tells you when there's been a change of position. It's completely filled the screen with how many times they changed places, because they were absolutely neck and neck round the first corner. Little bit of a tap there, and then they go completely side by side still up towards the hairpin. One's later on the brakes than the other. A little bit of movement, but these cars do wobble around a lot on the brakes. You have to be so careful when racing closely in these things. But the best thing here, Paul, is the fact that this is really helping Henry Morse and Stephen King to break away now. They have a 1.8 second lead over Jack Johns as a duo, and they can just fight amongst themselves, really, if they need to. But at the end of the day, they're getting further and further away, so why would they?
Yeah, exactly. It's gold dust for these two drivers. Both of them, as you've already mentioned, very experienced in the world of iRacing, the VW Jetta as well. They know there is zero benefit to the two of them squabbling at this moment in time. While you've got a bit of a head of steam, you try and pull out as much advantage as humanly possible. Speaking of as much advantage as possible, Martin Pearson. I said he had some clear track and some wiggle room. Well, wiggle room be gone, because now he is very much in the heart of the battle. That's a big look from Flamignon behind. Doesn't have the room on this occasion, but Pearson, I think his turn at the lead of class is coming to somewhat of an abrupt end as we head down into Montreal.
You can see the classes as well on the track map there. The lightest red are the BMWs, which are very, very spread out at this moment in time. But you can see all the dark grey ones in one big bubble are all of the Jettas that are together coming on to the start-finish straight. There's a bunch of cars coming into the pit lane, actually. We've got some of the Jettas coming in, actually, very early. Wow, we didn't expect them in that early at all.
All of the Jettas.
Yeah, pretty much all of them. There's only two that are still out on circuit. Henry Morse, interestingly, being one of them. Now, he's been at the front of the pack the whole time, Paul, so strangely, he's been the one that, well, seemingly has saved fuel in all of this, despite being a leader. That's remarkable.
And that's interesting. I like this. I always find in a race that requires a pit stop, if you're stopping at the same time as everybody else, you're not going to gain anything. Going on a contra strategy to those around may work out, may not do. But I think for Henry Morse, he'll be a bit disappointed that BMW was in the mix as well. That's compromising him a little bit in terms of his performance. The rest of the Jettas now, as one almost, steam out of pit lane. Jack John's third position in class as things stands. That's worked out reasonable for Jack. He'll be satisfied with that one, and we'll see what happens with Henry as he comes probably inevitably round for his stop on the next lap.
Yeah, we jump on board now with Chris Flamignon now that the camera decides to play ball, and he is now sat behind Martin Pearson. But you know what? He's not going anywhere, is he? Right now, to be fair to him, he's just about holding on to the back of that machine, trying to make himself a bit of a nuisance for Martin Pearson. Oh, Martin doesn't get a fantastic run out of the final corner. Now runs all the way over to the right-hand side. That's a mega run by Flamignon. But look, he slows it down a little bit, gives him a bump and says, look, I'm just going to push you, mate. I'm just going to push you all the way down there. As Giovanni Romano makes absolute mincemeat of the MX-5s in a straight line. What a riot that BMW is, man. Flipping out.
I think this is a mistake from Flamignon at this moment in time. I don't think that Martin Pearson has the pace of the cars behind. Yes, some of that one, of course, is he's the leader of the pack, punching a hole in the air for the others to take the advantage. But I think he is the proverbial cork in the bottle. We're not talking tens of seconds, we're only talking tenths, if not thousands of seconds. But there's definitely that lead car has had an advantage and lost an advantage. The 301 doesn't look quite as comfortable as those behind at this moment in time. But the big question is, what's the appetite of the drivers, led by this car, Chris Flamignon, to make a move? Or are we going to hang fire and wait till the pit cycle starts? That's also a valid strategic move.
Yeah, one thing that we've seen drivers do before in other endurance series is they will, even if they save fuel, they will still pit at the same time as everyone else to make sure that they're still in the pack. And then, you know, because their stop is shorter, they will jump them physically, and the other drivers will be able to see that they've been jumped, and it gets more in their head because of the fact that you all pitted at the same time, but still somehow a car has gotten ahead of you. So I'm intrigued to see if anyone does that, because they don't want to be just sat on their own. But Flamignon now goes through after that great run onto the back straight. Martin Pearson running a little bit wide. Thomas Weston still in the thick of this as well. He's got Miles Owens just ahead of him. I really do like this nose camera, and I've only just remembered that we've got it, so we're going to use it for a little bit now as we follow these great MX-5s. Lovely reflections off the surface here on iRacing. I've still not been able to unsee the skid mark thing you mentioned a while ago, Paul. But these guys doing an epic, epic job of just putting on a good show. Ooh, Niall's internet isn't.
And that's awful as a driver, isn't it? And that's one of the things that's unique to sim racers. In fact, let's come back to that one, because now it's the MX-5 pit stop time. Thomas Weston dives down pit lane. Alongside him, he brings pretty much everybody in his realm. King is there as well. Pearson jumps down pit lane. So Martin Pearson, having lost the lead, has decided now is the time to pull the trigger. That's going to be fascinating to see where he comes out in comparison to Flamion, to Owens as well when they make their stop. Will stopping earlier have worked to their advantage. Richard Cawthron is in pit lane as well in the BMW from 3rd position in class. So that's going to be interesting to see how that one pans out as well. These next 5 minutes, Chaz, they're going to change the reading of this race significantly, I feel.
Yeah, I just want to see now when he gets going. I also want to show off my pit lane camera that I set up a while ago. You'll like this. It's like something off a TV show. You ready? Oh. There you go, have some of that. It took me so long to do that.
Draycott everybody, that's nice.
It took me so long to do that based on the position of the cars, and it really shouldn't with how long I've spent setting up cameras. Still, in the GR86 is yet to pit. Ryan Chevalier leads the way, Austin Tucker, then Georg Gruber. And they've got a few MX-5s then between themselves. John Payton and Chris Schofer. They're only separated by 10 seconds a bit further back, but it's now, after Henry Morse has been in the pits, 7 seconds longer, Stephen King leads the way. Henry Morse, well, he's a good 8 seconds back from Stephen now, so it's car 22, top of the Jetta pile, with his teammate Jack Johns just behind him. I say just, I mean that's a massive gap in Jetta terms.
Yeah, it really is a big gap. I think if Stephen King will reflect on that pit cycle and think it's worked out very nicely indeed. Big question is, though, how long will that advantage last for? That is the big question. Jack Johns very keen to close upon his teammate as quickly as possible. A, to help his teammate out with a bit of bump drafting, and B, to get away from that hungry pack behind as well. Several drivers, Van Olst being the leader of that one, trying to buy into this one. Give it 5 minutes, folks. It'll turn into another 7-car battle. I am guaranteeing you.
You know, the only thing this Jetta needs just to be more touring car is it needs a massive, really thick font on the rear windows of the driver's name, doesn't it? Just needs a name.
That would be wonderful.
With a random yellow strip of Velcro as well. Still, we've got Ben Chalcraft now into the pits. Another quiet race for Ben. He actually had quite the quiet race at Charlotte Roval as well, didn't he, a few weeks ago. But he's going to be pretty happy about the fact that he's having a quiet one because, as you and I both know, Paul, sometimes no news is good news as a racing driver. So you don't want to have a tough time. I've just noticed something horrific. I don't know if it's just this camera angle or whether it's me going mad. I'm going to wait a bit and see what shots we can get of Ben's car, because I've just noticed something that if it's true, it will... I don't think it is, but I think it's just a camera angle. If it's true, it's really going to upset me. No, I think it's alright. I thought the number 8s on that 88 were upside down.
Oh, that would have been irritating. That would have drawn my eye significantly.
Brooks Clayton goes through. Now, he's only had one pit stop so far, but it was 4 seconds long because that was his stop to repair damage, basically. So this is not a theoretical change of position for these guys. Look at this lot behind the MX-5s. Having an absolute whale of a time. Weston around the outside of Pearson as the two of them go side by side. Alex King is in the mix as well. Let's go on the nose cam again. Let's make use of this, because in the MX-5s it's great fun. How are there 4 cars in that tiny space on screen? I do not know, but this is the absolute pinnacle of production car racing, isn't it, Paul? Tight, close stuff. They're not rapid, so they're not, they're not doing crazy prototype speeds. So the drivers have time to react. They have time to sort of throw it up the inside and react to one another and not throw it off the road. Fantastic door-to-door stuff here.
This is why I adore this kind of racing. Pearson to the inside. He holds the inside line as well. That's some good, brave racing. Alex King has the speed, but doesn't have the space to insert his car. That's the problem. When there's so many cars all so even battling together, you can have the overspeed, but you just don't have an MX-5 shaped gap in which to insert yourself. I dare say, though, Alex King, much as he's enjoying watching this fight, will be on pins trying to get involved himself.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful racing amongst all of these drivers. I love that one. As Giovanni Romano, we get to have a look at him, having dominated things at the head of the field, comes in to make his service.
Weston down the inside of Flamion. Flamion back down the inside of Weston. Pearson and King side by side in the background as well. Hoping to leave room is Pearson. Certainly trying to force Alex King to the outside. This is all working for Miles Owens. He's able to get away from all of these lot. Having a good old battle, but look at this. Weston trying it round the outside now. Not going to work round there. Has to get on the brakes, try and resettle it, get a run down the start-finish straight. Oh, Pearson's run was really badly affected there, actually, as they got on the gas. It's now Alex King that's got the run on the Matt Black machine. We're practically inside the rear bumper of that machine. That camera is no use to anyone at that angle, as they now push one another NASCAR style, hopefully not Daytona style into the wall, but NASCAR style down the start-finish straight for another lap. Lap 21 for our race leader, Giovanni Romano, the 20th lap of the race for these MX-5s. And with it being a longer lap here, Paul, there's less laps being put on the entire field, actually. The last running car at the moment, which is Carson Catlin. Actually, no, Carson is not running, I do apologise. Eric Mannenfeld, the last car running, is only 2 laps down on the leader.
Yeah, that's quite surprising. Of course, it is a bit of a long lap here at the Snetterton 300 layout, about 2.9 miles, 4.7 kilometres in length, 12 corners. Of course, on this relatively new layout, and that's a very powerful pit entry indeed. The third place Toyota GR86 machine, the bright yellow car, comes to make its pit stop. It'll jump up on the virtual jacks. All the work that needs to be done will be done, and then without too much further ado, he'll be back on the racetrack and trying to find another little exciting battle to insert himself into.
Yeah, I think he'll be quite happy, will Ryan Chevalier, to be sort of on his own for a little bit on the circuit and not have a GR86 either in his windscreen or his rear mirror. So he'll be quite happy to come back out. Azul, Pedro Barbosa has a little bit of a moment there at the right-hander, overdoes it slightly, but as he gets back onto the Bentley straight, he's going to make absolute mincemeat of this MX-5. A little bit of corrective oversteer there. That's Matt Acton just in front. Matt is unfortunately about 7.5 seconds off the other MX-5s around him. Kenjo Racing winding me up in the chat. Thanks, Connor. Saying Ben isn't actually the number 88 car. It's 2 double zeros stacked on top of each other. After my very clear hatred of the 000 run that number that Connor runs. Thomas Weston's had a drama, Paul. I'll actually get my teeth back in while you cover this.
Yep, let's have a little look then, Weston, in the white car in the middle of your shot. We talked about how difficult it is to get the car slowed down. And Thomas, it's funny we should see that one, because the last time we saw Thomas Weston in the Battle Pike, I was very impressed with how he's able to position his car and quick change of directions. It looks like it's a little bit lively on the rear axle though, and unfortunately asking more of the tyres than they're capable of giving. And around she goes. Weston was mighty fortunate to not get collected during that spin. He will live to fight on, but he's got a big disadvantage to the battle pack he was previously engaged with.
Georg Gruber has been engaged with Austin Tucker throughout this whole race so far. There's still just under an hour left to go here at Snetterton, and they say time flies when you're having fun, but to be honest, this one has not gone very quickly at all so far. There's been a lot happening though in this opening stint. Some of these drivers will be happy for a little bit of respite now to get that first pit stop out of the way. Austin Tucker and Georg Gruber on their way in. Now, where is Ryan Chevalier in all of this? He is heading round into the final sector of the lap. Once these pit stops have been completed, Paul and I will just be taking a quick break here on Chaz Draycott Media just to get a refresh, just to have a drink and so on. But we'll wait and see where Ryan comes out with his fellow drivers around him. Chris Chauffeur is a good half a minute back on these guys, so nothing going on there. Let's go into the pit lane camera. These guys are now moving. You can see Chevalier heading down the start-finish straight in the background. They're going to head out of the pit lane now. Off they go. There goes Chevalier. Is he going to get ahead of the pair of them? I think he is by turn 1. Oh, I don't know. He's in front of Tucker. Can he get all the way around the outside? Yes, he can. Georg Gruber is the one that's actually lost out the most. And that is race leader Giovanni Romano in the BMW having to take evasive action as well, Paul. But they are not far enough apart yet for the reset button to have been completely hit here. I mean, I can't get my words out about it, but they're not too far apart, basically, are they?
Not at all, but that's worked out really well for Ryan Chevalier. Of course, his tyres are much warmer than the cars that have just left pit lane, so he's going to carry that advantage for the next half a lap or so. This is his opportunity to really hit the loud pedal, try and gap, at least for a little while, to give himself an advantage. The BMW, you see, just up the road, makes its way through as well, so Chevalier managed to avoid too much drama in that particular incident. But it's game on, boys and girls. It is game on in the GR86 class for this race lead.
Patrick Dopart still game on as well, with Sam Van Olst right in front of him, Jeremy Agard behind these guys as well. all having a good old ding-dong, nearly contact as they head through the final corner. As mentioned, though, Paul and I will be taking a quick break for just a minute here on Chaz Draycott Media. We're just going to take a quick 5-minute break from comms, just like I say, have a reset and so on. What we'll do is stay on board with Jeremy Agard so you can enjoy the VW Jetta for a couple of laps, and Paul and I will be right back with you. We'll see you in a few. Well, I tell you what, everybody, the noise of the Volkswagen Jetta diesel is certainly enough to send you to sleep. I know that my partner Charlotte had fallen asleep on the sofa while watching the broadcast while it was on, but it's certainly great to ride on board with someone like Jeremy Agard, isn't it, Paul, that knows this car and knows this circuit so well, and he can just get round here in such great harmony with a car that, let's face it, it's not the most conventional of racing cars, is it, the Jetta?
No, it's more suited to a taxi, it has to be said, but it is a fabulous racing car, one of my favourites on the whole iRacing platform, and our drivers are putting on a cracking show so far. Agard still in that 5th position, still looking at the back of Van Alsterhead, but crucially, not looking like he's particularly enthused about making a move just yet. I find that quite curious because Dopard ahead is starting to gap these two. So if you're going to make a move, you need to be making it quite soon to stay in contention.
Yeah, absolutely, and Henry Morse is starting to get amongst it as well. We need to go back to the GR86s though, because Ryan Chevalier in just one corner is all of a sudden going to go from P3 to P1. He's just absolutely mugged this pair off. How on earth has he done that? Oh, Austin Tucker actually. No, sorry. There was a change. Chevalier has gone off and then come back on again earlier on. He's out there somewhere. Wait for it. There he is. And then they come back round again the lap after that. And it's all changed again. These GR86s are proving to be a lot more exciting than we've seen them in the past. That is a fantastic move by Chevalier.
That is hunter killer mode enabled. Fantastic stuff from Ryan Chevalier. Really kept his head when all around were losing theirs. And it was a curious off-track moment the previous lap. It has to be said, he went a long way away from the racing surface, but no harm, no foul. He'll not be too concerned about that one, will Ryan, because he's back very firmly installed into that race leading position. And Chaz, those hot tyres that we spoke about ain't giving him the advantage he was hoping for, because it was a good second and a half's worth of advantage, and you can see with your own eyes there's way less than that now.
Yeah, definitely. It's certainly a gap that's dissolved, to say the least. But yeah, nice and grippy tyres now, to say the least. I mean, this car, we've spoken about the grip of this thing before, because in the early days of its release on iRacing, if you went under a certain speed and just turned the wheel full lock and then put your foot down, it would roll itself over. It's got that much grip. It was an unnatural amount of it, unlike the amount of grip that you had during the break, Paul, I'm told. The break was extended a little bit, by the way, everybody. We do apologise.
Yes, I decided to take an unconventional route down the stairs, which wasn't on my feet. And I'll admit to you now, it does hurt. I've got to say it does hurt. And that'll teach me for being too poor to afford to replace my carpet on the stairs. But yeah, top lesson for you there, peoples. Less haste, more speed, as they say. And
yes.
The rush to get a beverage and refresh myself, shall we say, with the facilities, pay the price. Whoa, there's a price to be paid. Look at that one. Gabriele Tarquini-esque.
Fantastic. It's like Guillaume Gruber drove over an IED on the inside of that right-hander. That was absolutely phenomenal. That's the Afghanistan route through that corner. Fantastic stuff by Guillaume Gruber. God, I'm going to get demonetised one day. Still, fantastic entertainment all the same. And you know what? That shows these guys, you know, they may not be making moves sometimes. They may not be going for it everywhere, but they are pushing. They really are pushing these cars. And speaking of pushing, let's just quickly go on board with our class leader here. Let's go on board with Chevalier and wait for Ben Shellcraft to come flying on by. Or is he actually? No, Ben will not make it through before turn one. He's not even made it past Tucker, to be fair. I was expecting a full, you know, air show flyby and everything from Ben, but you know what? He's doing everything right here, is Ben, because he's in a position where he's a good 18 seconds off Cawthron. He's a nearly 20-second gap ahead of Barbosa. He doesn't need to rush past these guys. He can use the power of that BMW. It's the easiest way to get past someone is in a straight line. He's not taking any risks, and that's the perfect thing to do. He'll come past now, look. And that's just the perfect thing for it. He's looking down the inside. He's trying to make himself predictable. And then Chevalier still says no. I like that from Chevalier in a way. Ben will be sort of gritting his teeth a bit, maybe saying a few words. But you know, now he says, go on then. Let's. Oh, Chevalier don't want to give it him, actually. I don't know if that's naughty from Chevalier or not, you know.
I think there's an element of Shellcraft, you're absolutely right, using caution, there's nothing to really fight for, there's no battle in front and behind, but almost that caution's kind of playing against him a little bit. The cars around him are not quite sure what's going to happen, and you know what it's like when you're racing multi-class traffic, you've got to be hard and committed, you've got to make it happen for yourself, and I think Ben's almost kind of like just hanging the nose in the corners a little bit and hoping something will happen, which is uncomfortable for concerned. But hey, he's got it done. He's passed now, and battle commences with the GR86 unencumbered by traffic.
Although Tucker's just had a poor run actually out of the right-hander there, and Gruber is now closer to him than he is to Chevalier. But, you know, I feel like Chevalier might feel that he was a little bit sort of hindered there, you know, like Ben was not tampering necessarily, but we're just getting in the way a little bit and sort of affecting his line through some of the corners. I mean, look at the cornering speed of the GR86. He catches up there, but then all of a sudden, it's just the BMW just drives off down the straight. It's so funny. I love that, though.
Weird. It's weird, though, isn't it? Because no one has ever accused the BMW of being a quick car in a straight line. But it looks like it's something ridiculous, doesn't it? It looks like it's an LMP1 or something stupid. It's the relative speed difference between the classes makes the car look all the more quicker than it would do if it was flying solo, so to speak, around the track. Absolutely wild.
The thing is, though, as well, if you looked at these two cars side by side, if you were at something like an auto sports show, then again, there'd be no cars turn up, but still, if you were then at a show like that, and these two were on the same stand as each other, you would put them in the same bracket of overall pace. You know, cornering-wise, you'd think, wow, the GR86, you know, a low, hunkered down little sports car with that huge GT-style wing on the back of it, and then you've got the BMW with its little sort of wing that, you know, that your mate puts on at the garage for you that he got off eBay for 50 quid. And then this BMW just winds itself on, and it's an absolute missile. It's over, I believe it's over 400 horsepower is the M2 CS. Funny fact, actually, a very good friend of mine just bought one of these over the weekend. He's in Daytona at the moment, so he's not able to enjoy it. But on his way down to go and meet another friend before they flew to Daytona, he went and bought one, the M2. And I'm very, very jealous. I'm seeing him tomorrow, actually. He's coming back. He's coming over on his way back up north. He's coming back past mine to come and show it off. Bless him.
So crowd watching at home, don't be too jealous that he's bought a BMW, because with jet lag, he's got to see Chaz Draycott, and that's a price that's just not worth paying.
No, and then he's got to drive 4.5 hours home.
Oh, bless you. Oh, wow. That's that does not sound like a whole bag of fun, it must be said.
I'll get talking about trains and everything.
Oh, God, don't. The poor man will be tired at the best of times. Look at me camera reel. Look at me camera reel.
It'd be more exciting than what's going on in the pit lane right now. Antonio Alvarez in the Renault BMW, waiting on, well, I don't know what.
It's reminiscent. No, it's the Ford, man. It's the Mondeo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
it's the quick fit Mondeo, isn't it?
Definitely a quick fit Mondeo.
Other brands are available, of course.
Yes. Yeah. We call them in the British Boring Car Championship, the team, rather than being the quick fit team, it's the dodgy MOT team. There's some fantastic... Oh, I forgot to tell you about all of that. There's some fantastic team names, like instead of Master Fit, it's Might Just Fit, stuff like that. It's great fun.
Love it.
Anyway, Chris Flamion, he's loving it at the moment. And he is not affiliated with any fast food chains of any sort, but he has a lead over Martin Pearson that by MX5 standards is colossal. There it is, half a second over the chalkboard machine in second place, a very matte black MX5. Looks like if you sort of rubbed your own car off across it, the vinyl would just peel off because it just sand it down. You don't want to go anywhere near that. But Flamion, right now, leading the way in these MX5s, and to be fair, it's strange to see them this far apart, actually, isn't it, Paul, with over an hour of the race now gone?
Well, it's very fascinating, actually, because if you remember, cast your mind back into the mists of time to 30 minutes ago, I was suggesting that Martin Pearson didn't have the ultimate pace of the battle pack behind him when he was leading this little gaggle of Mazda MX-5s. Well, clearly, that was the slipstream effect taking place, or the negative slipstream in the terms of Martin Pearson, because now he's got a car to follow, he's climbing all over the back of it, he's sticking to it like a cheap suit. So that just goes to show just how suboptimal it is to be leading the battle pack. You are the one that is going to have to work a hell of a lot harder to not quite extract the lap time of the cars behind you. So Flamion, not in a particularly comfortable position, but 38 minutes left on the clock. He doesn't really care because this is posturing, waiting for the final 5 minutes of the race to really pull the trigger. And Martin Pearson, good for him. He's definitely got the kind of pace that can put him into a victory shout contention, it seems.
Yeah, he's going really well, is Martin. He had a fantastic run at Navarra at the start of the season. Not so much good fortune at Charlotte Roval from memory, but at the end of the day, you've got to be in it to win it. And these guys, you know, they're not giving a single inch here at all. It's just great to see it. And in the MX-5, you need to have that about you. You need to be pushing the car and absolutely going for it everywhere that you can. And it's just been lovely to see that even with a long race like this, these guys can turn the MX-5 into a potent endurance car. Let's not forget as well, they've got open setups on these things, although Martin seemingly slowed down towards the end of the straight there. I'm not quite sure why, but didn't look like he was at full poke.
Well.
Yeah. Has he got another car around him? He's definitely not. I don't know what was happening there. That was really odd, wasn't it?
It'd be nice to ride on board, actually, just for a little while. Let's have a look, see if you can get full throttle depression down the start-finish straight. It could very much be a hardware issue for the driver as well, of course. So look at that, the green bar, all the way down. No, it's not. How do they... Okay, yeah. It looked a bit steady, but I think he's... Seems to be okay, Chaz. I'm not quite sure what's happening with Martin here, but it's definitely... Something's not well. Something is not well with a 301.
And what's happened ahead, actually, is Chris Flamion has just put a lap on Eric Manintveld in the Jetta. And, I mean, the size comparison between the two cars is absolutely phenomenal. One of them looks like it's made of tin and weighs about 3 kilos. The other's an MX-5. And it's just awesome to see these two very different cars on circuit together. You know that Jetta's very hollow inside. That's the funny thing about it. You know, it's just it's about as hollow as Volkswagen's emissions reports of around the same era. But it's just excellent race car. But I'll tell you what, Flamion, all of a sudden, he's looking absolutely rapid in this thing. He's making this MX-5 look like a GT4 car, though, where he's wrangling it around. But relatively smooth, actually. We can go on board and it'll be the same story because, I mean, we've both seen drivers drive these things very quickly before and they're a little bit all over the place, but he's going for the old Jensen Button-esque sort of one input in one direction and then straighten the wheel back up again. Very tidy.
Yeah, I love to see that, actually. It's not the most spectacular way of driving, but it just shows it's a man in command of his vehicle underneath him. He's got the car in a nice spot. At this juncture in the race, the balance, the setup is all working very nicely indeed for our current class leader, Chris Flamion. And yeah, it does look like a man who's got everything under control at this moment in time. But again, just to remind everybody watching at home, this is a 1 hour and 40-minute race, and because of the closeness of the field, it really is, for the first hour and 30 minutes, it's just making sure you're in contention for that final 10, isn't it? It is all about the setup for the payoff at the end.
Yeah, it's like NASCAR, isn't it? You know, you do a
Exactly.
300-lap race for the last 3 laps. It's just amazing. And at the end of the day, it's the perseverance and the endurance. You know, people, when you explain the race to them like that, they go, well, what's the point? And it's the perseverance to get through the race and survive it and keep your car in a good condition, keep your mental state in a positive mind frame as well, and, you know, just get yourself through that too. You know, as a human being, you can get tired over stuff like this. Let's not forget, these drivers are the only drivers that race these individual cars for this long. There's no driver swaps, there's no respite for any of them. The pit stops are really short, they're less than 30 seconds in pretty much all classes, so you barely get 30 seconds, barely a minute of an hour and 40 minutes where you're actually doing nothing. You know, you've got long straights here at Snetterton, but it's like putting the autopilot on in a plane. You're still flying the plane at the end of the day. You've got to still be there and make sure that it's doing what you want it to do. Stephen King, by the way, into the pits. He's going to come in, write another novel, then take off again. But, yeah, he's into the pits ahead of all the other Jettas. But seemingly, I know he's just going quite far down. I thought that was a drive-through for a second there, Paul, because they do have them in this series.
Yep, King has made his very aggressive, I must say, on entry to pit lane, which I love to see that one because that's free lap time. If you can attack pit entry and pit exit better than your rivals around you, you can find tenths of a second, which is so much easier than trying to find it on the racetrack. So good stuff for Stephen King at this moment in time. Henry Morse, that we're riding on board with, we're having a little look back on the rear quarter of his second place number 14 car at this moment in time with the VW Jetta pack. That is Dopart behind, being a heck of a lot more conservative with how much racetrack he's using. So Dopart doesn't feel the need to extend the limits of the racetrack at this stage, such as the confidence of the driver and the pace that he's got at this moment in time. Just happy to sit there in third, keep a watching brief, and just see what potential excitement may come his way a little bit further down the road.
33 minutes remain, and we're on lap 33 as well here at Snetterton in the FTR Events Production Car Challenge Plus with yours truly, Chaz Draycott, and the wonderful Paul Jeffrey in the commentary box. Big shout out again to the FTR admins for running such a great series, putting together such a fun event, and giving us shots like this where the BMW of Ben Chalcraft goes absolutely steaming by down the back straight here at Snetterton. But you know what, Paul? We ridiculed Snetterton for being flat and boring earlier, and to be honest, it's at the same time, let's not forget, we said how good a place this is for racing in cars like this, and it's certainly proven that tonight. You know, we've not had the biggest field we've had all season. We started with 26 cars spread across 4 classes. We've got 23. We've been lucky that any cars we have lost, we've only lost 1 from 3 of the classes so far. We've not lost more than one car from an individual class. And you know what? I'm over-explaining this. It's been good, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. Snetterton is still flat and boring, but it does produce great races. It's the last place you'd want to go and do a track day on, but it's one of the top of the list places in the UK you'd want to do a motor race on, because it's just perfect for side-by-side action in these cars, as there is an armada of VW Jettas heading to the taxi stand to pick up a weary passenger.
After a rough night out.
Yeah, someone's going to be sick on the back seat before this night's over.
Oh, I hope they've got the leather premium interior.
Then again, there's no back seats in these ones. So
oh no, they'll be sheeting. They'll be sheeting down. They really slide all over the place when you're 6 pints deep.
Oh yeah,
and you're sat in the back of that. It's ragging you all over the seat, falling all over the floor.
It'll run everywhere. It'll be wonderful. Oh, still Stephen King. Well, he's absolutely ragging this thing around Snetterton. He's disappeared ahead of the rest of the field. Fantastic stuff from him so far. Jack Johns returns to the circuit with a BMW right up behind him, much like being a taxi driver on the M6 this. As now that is Brooks Clayton going through. Brooks has been very chill in this race so far, despite the livery. Jack is certainly a fan of not giving a lot of room on the inside. He's made a bit of a theme of that at the hairpin so far. Not pointing out too much, sorry Jack, but certainly been a recurring thing. Agard and Van Olst are side by side, trying to figure out who can go the widest at the hairpin. Side by side through to Palmer's. You can see a lot of the dust being kicked up there that's been dragged back onto the circuit. And what I do like about this point of the race, Paul, is that the cars do get a bit dusty and mucky. If you look at the 13 of Jeremy Agard, there's a few flies and stuff on it. There's a bit of dust and stuff being kicked up from that front arch, from behind the wheels onto the door, as there's now a bit of yellow on the door as well as he makes contact with Van Olst. Great stuff.
Yeah, really do. I do love that the attention to detail in iRacing for things like this, and the way that they bring the gravel and the dirt and the junk onto the racing line is second to none, actually. In fact, for my entire time working at Studio 397, complaining about why are we not having cars that get mucky over the race distance, that was basically they employed me to bug the developers to bring that feature back. And hip hip hooray for Paul, I made it happen, and it did come back at long last as Ben Chalcraft decides he's had enough of circulating on his lonesome and comes to say hello to his invisible virtual mechanics.
And also
and flies through a car.
Antonio Alvarez as well. To be fair, I never risk it with cars like that in the pit lane, so I don't know why others do. But yeah, Ben up onto the jacks, gets some fresh rubber on those beautifully immaculate white wheels. Just gives us another chance to look at that car sitting still, to be honest. It's absolutely awesome to look at. One car we've not seen for a while is Richard Cawthraw. He led the race in the opening laps. He did a fantastic job of it. He still holds on to second position right now. Rich is the main man, I believe, behind FTR Events. And it's great to see the league admin out there on circuit. That's what a few of the drivers are excited for on Tuesday in the SRM Club Racing Fest that we're going to do, because they all get to smack me off the circuit in different cars, because we're in the Clio to begin with and the Formula Ford, so I know I'm getting sent to space. And then we're going to be in the MX-5 at the end of it, so at least that thing's got a roll cage. But yeah, it's always fun when you get an admin racing with you on the circuit as well. No conflict of interest, very professional stuff from these boys, and yeah, you love to see it. I also love to see another thing that we pointed out earlier, Paul, is especially with the debris refresh here on iRacing and the dynamic surface. Just look at the marbles as they head around this final corner now. You can see them offline here on the right-hand side of the shot, and then on the left-hand side of the shot as well. The circuit absolutely littered in marbles and debris around that final sector. Just shows you how narrow that part of the track is made as a longer race goes on like this, doesn't it?
Yeah, love it. It's another dynamic for the drivers, isn't it, to comprehend and consider. So, of course, anybody who's relatively new to the world of motor racing, hello and welcome.
Hello.
If you go on marbles, they're little balls of rubber that go onto your tyres and make you go spinny, spin, spin. As Henry Morse has tried to avoid going spinny, spin, spin to the inside. Thank you very much. Wham, bam. I'll take that position away. The 24 has no response just yet. Why? Because there's another car. Of course there is. The VW Jettas. Everywhere you look, there's one trying to make its way past. And they run side by side, Chaz.
They do indeed. Jack Johns there side by side with Patrick Dopart. This is for second place in class as well. So Henry Morse, despite having the pit stop a lot longer earlier on that dropped him down away from the lead pack, he's now right amongst it. Stephen King still continues to lead these lot. They take Bollards for a burden through the left, through the right. Look at the cornering speed though from Patrick Dopart. We've seen that from him all race long. He's been able to carry so much speed through some of the corners where the other guys haven't. And it's just been absolutely mega to watch. And yet again, the Jetta's providing great entertainment. My good friend Alex has just popped up into the YouTube chat. Good to see you. And Dredge as well. All the boys are turning up now. They're here to watch the Taxi Racing Championship. There is this Jetta class, Paul.
The 2-litre Taxi Championship with some diesel power as well. As Jack Johns now
Jack.
gets... Oh, come on, Jack. That is ridiculous, son. They both get away with it, thankfully. That is a good bit of driving, in fact, from Dopart to keep the car on the straight and narrow. But Jack Johns... Oh, come on, that's not nice. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is not how you go about that kind of business.
Yeah, Ryan Chevalier there, the innocent party in that one. And, well, Jack didn't paint a great advert for himself in that one there. I think, as well, Patrick Dopart or somebody had a drama down at the hairpin. There was something else going on there, but... I mean, I don't know what he was doing. I really don't know what Jack was doing there, because if we go on with this again, I mean, we'll go from the outside. Patrick's all the way over to the right. I mean, he's on the white line. He starts to come over left, but that's what you'd expect. Patrick does really well not to get involved in that. But then Ryan Chevalier, minding his own business, comes out of the pits. Sure, he's onto the apex, but Jack, I think, just misjudges it. And to be fair, Ryan does well to not go fully around there.
And actually, to be fair, I do think that Chevalier should take a certain amount of blame for that one as well. As you're the car rejoining the racing surface, of course, it's your responsibility to ensure that you do so. We'll have the onboard mirrors that he can look at, and of course, I dare say he's probably got something like crew chief running. He's probably got a radar of some variety as well. So a little bit more awareness for Chevalier, I think, was needed there. But Jack Johns, as you say, perhaps just losing his head a little bit in a moment of drama was, culpable for that one. But Chevalier will be a little bit frustrated. Hopefully he's not got any significant damage on that third place GR86 as well, though that's not going to hinder him for the next 25 minutes and change.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, the Volkswagen Jetta's only made of cardboard anyway, so it just bounces off the much sturdier GR86. There is Austin Tucker. He makes his way in then from the lead. Georg Gruber has carried on, which is interesting to see. So these guys have now all been sort of stepped one at a time by individual laps that they can carry on with. Ryan Chevalier will not be happy with what happened earlier, but it's certainly going to help out Austin Tucker. Now, where is Ryan in all of this? He's just coming down the start-finish straight as the cameraman theoretically falls over on the stand. Then again, he's not been knocked down by a Chevy Cruze touring car in this episode, so he'll be quite happy about that. Well, that has spread the field out somewhat. Giovanni Romano, race leader. Once again, Paul, it's just been absolutely immaculate at the front, hasn't he? It looked a little bit shaky at the start with Cawthorne having a go at him, but since then, he's just disappeared. Yeah,
he's been dominant as Romano. The hardest thing that he's had to deal with all race long is getting that pit exit right. Giovanni Romano. And again, big credit to him as well. Look how hard he attacked pit entry.
Yeah.
Even with all the advantage in the world, he's leaving nothing on the racetrack. And you've got to respect the Canadian driver for that one. He's doing an absolutely sensational job in that number 99 BMW. Country mile is the advantage thus far. As he comes back out of pit lane again. Beautiful camera shots from Chaz Draycott. Loving that one. And into another bit of a squabble on track. I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem for the BMW.
No, that's Eric Manintveld in the VW Jetta just in front of him, and we're going to see once again another display of the power difference between these cars. Different classes, of course. Eric Manintveld is on his 35th lap of the race. Giovanni Romano has just started his 38th, and the BMW, as you see, very easily scooting past the Jetta, and in a straight line the BMW is the car to have, of course. That's the thing though, is these lead class cars, they have a massive advantage. There's a huge curve to the advantage from one class to the next. The MX-5s and the GR86s usually on similar pace, to say the least. I mean, if we look at not Stephen King actually, I was going to say Stephen is only about a fifth of a lap behind the last MX-5 at this point, so the Jetta hasn't even dropped off much, but the lead MX-5 is ahead, literally just there, by 2 seconds of the bottom GR86 in the race. So it just shows you that, you know, these drivers, they do mingle a bit. We'll show you the overall standings on the left. You can see there's only a little bit of a blend point between the GR86s and the MX-5s, but Martin Pearson, again, Paul, only good words to say about Martin in this race so far. He's been in the face of adversity many times with all the battles he's had going on, but he continues on and doing a fantastic, fantastic job in the lead.
Yeah, done an absolutely bonzer effort as Martin Pearson at this moment in time. I questioned as to whether he had the pace to hold on to that race lead a little while ago, some 40 minutes or so ago now. But Martin, absolutely, having dropped down into second position, got his head down, executed his pit cycle very nicely indeed, stayed out of trouble, was aggressive where he needed to be, and the advantage he's got now is night and day for these little Mazda MX-5s. Over 5 seconds from Chris Flamignon in second position. Brooks Clayton, he's got a livery that would burn the retinas of your eyeballs if you looked at it for too long, but he's doing a really, really good job as well. Windscreen wipers on, that's how boring it is at Snetterton. You've got to obstruct your view a little bit to make it spicier as a driver, but he's doing sterling work up there in third as well.
Yeah, and to be fair to Brooks, I mean, I'm not sure how out of sync he is with pit stops, but Ben Chalcraft is only 5 seconds behind him in the Schnitzer throwback BM. He's just going to be coming into shot just now. There he is. Lovely looking machine, but Ben has held third position through pretty much all of this race, and now he has a car ahead of him all of a sudden. He's going to be thinking, what's gone on here? But the last time that Brooks Clayton pitted was lap 21, so that was a good 18 laps ago. And that was the first time he pitted properly, let's say, because in the first few laps he had damage, of course. Because on lap 1, he did the cardinal sin, didn't he, Paul? Tried to win it all on lap 1. No, I'm joking. He just missed his braking point innocently, hit another car, and he had to get it repaired to continue on.
Yeah, a bit of 10-pin bowling with a race car is always inevitable on the opening laps, especially a track like Snetterton, the Montreal hairpin, so inviting to get involved. The accordion effect is massive when everybody's close together, and good job from Brooks Clayton, A, to stay in it, and B, to be so competitive once that car's been repaired. Alex King is also in third position, but third in an entirely different class. There's the rasping little Mazda as the BMW goes, hey, see you later sunshine, and takes the position, well, takes the track position, if not racetrack position, and see you later. Watch him disappear into the distance like a scolded thing that runs fast. I can't think of an example.
Not me, that's for sure.
What runs fast? What runs fast when it's scolded? There's a science experiment that you don't want to repeat.
Anyway.
Get your breath back, son. Get your breath back.
Alex King in the MX-5. You can see he's killed about half the bug population of Norwich by just driving this thing around. To be fair, it's bright yellow, and they do tend to be attracted to bright yellow things. And Alex's very subtle MX-5 has taken many a bug splatter to it, but he continues on. He's third in his class, and to be fair, considering how compact the MX-5s were earlier on, Paul, they've really spread out a lot now. And we've actually got Martin Pearson leading the way by 10 seconds. Chris Flamignon 4.5 seconds up the road. Matt Acton 12 seconds back. So there's quite the spread amongst these boys right now. I think we've lost our fourth car from the race, which is Eric Manintveld. He's been sat in the pits now for a good few minutes, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's a shame for Eric. He's been doing a good job to keep the car on the racetrack and just keep persevering despite being very, very detached from those around them. And I must admit, and this shows my lack of capability as a commentator, I have genuinely got no idea how the MX-5s have been so spread out, because they've been a battle pack of about 7. We look away, we concentrate on something else, and we come back and everybody's like, a couple of drivers are at Brands Hatch, one's gone to Silverstone, they're miles away. So I'm not quite sure exactly what's happened there, but there's certainly been an element of shenanigans as being at play in the Mazda MX-5 Cup, which, frankly, is par for course for those cars.
Well, yeah, I think we had Thomas Weston have his own moment earlier on, and he's unfortunately now dropped way further down. He is in 20th position. He was in the pits for over a minute last time out, actually, on lap 34. So I don't know if he's had a further drama, but he's dropped off quite a bit. Miles Owens is having a battle with a car he doesn't really want to fight, which is Stephen King's Volkswagen Jetta. He's also got the Ryan Chevalier GR86 trying to recover positions as well, as he nearly has contact with King. King ends up off the road. Well, he was trying to fight that one a little bit hard with Stephen King, and he could just sort of wait a little bit. But yeah,
I'd say he spooked Stephen King.
You'll write a book about that. We've actually got BMWs within half a mile of each other, which is Pedro Barbosa and Brooks Clayton. So this is where Brooks now has ended up in this race. Now he's synced up again in pit stops, although I'll say that he's done 3 more. No, he's not. Shut up, Chaz. He's done 1 more pit stop than everybody else in the class, but obviously he's had fantastic pace so far, and he's been quicker than Pedro Barbosa, who's had a few offs. He's had a little moment here and there as Pedro. I've seen him off the circuit a few times, but didn't want to bring attention to it too much. We've also had Sam Van Olst enter the pit lane and jump to the pits. What's happened to Sam? Not sure if he's just calling it a night or what. Is he going to hit the end of the pit wall? Oh, yeah. No, I think he's decided his race is done, and he's done it in a dramatic fashion.
And that is what we call throwing the toys out of the pram.
Yes.
A little bit, yeah. Game for Sam, actually, because he's been good value for money. I've enjoyed watching Sam over the course of this evening. So that's a real pitted. This is a battle for position, though. Pedro Barbosa, car number 7, is vulnerable to attack from the car behind. He has the inside line, but it's very shallow into the final corner. And in fact, somehow, colour me surprised, that worked out very well indeed. Brooks Clayton does not have any kind of overlap, but
yeah, he's managed to make it work. Whoa, they come up on the GR86s very suddenly, and Pedro Barbosa, well, what was it you were saying, Paul, about going to Silverstone and Snetterton? Flipping, he's ended up at Anglesey. Barbosa goes way off. He nearly goes and joins the Daytona 24 hours. A bit late, but Pedro Barbosa, what were you doing?
Yeah, that is that was turning in. I was commentating over that while on mute. That was very exciting, but look at that one. To the inside, very aggressive and very late on the brakes. Good driving from Barbosa there, because he could have very easily collected the back of the car in front. So recognise that, oh dear, at this point he knew he'd gone wrong and got out of that one. Good style for the number 7.
I'd like to just point this out. Does he hit the throttle? I think he hits the throttle by accident there when wanting to hit the brake. I don't know, because he blipped the throttle again as he went into the corner.
That was panic. That was sheer.
Yeah.
Using fruity language, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, probably. I mean, it says he's an Iberian driver, so it's either Portuguese or Spanish. So yeah, definitely fruity language indeed to be shouted down there. I wouldn't be able to translate any of it, but you'd certainly get the idea that he wasn't very happy.
I know naughty words in Portuguese. That's I've been taught Portuguese naughty words, so I'd be able to translate if necessary on a few of those.
Well, to be fair, I know that we've definitely both learned naughty words in Italian when on the job with Alessio and the like. But yeah, there's I don't know any of them in any Iberian languages.
Still, Giovanni Romano, well, he just talks with a funny accent, to be fair, but he's not going to be hindered by any sort of accent or anything right now, because the huge ass BMW, I mean, it is really, it's got right hips on it, but it is absolutely flying at the controls or with Giovanni at the controls anyway. And to be honest, we ran out of superlatives for him at Charlotte Roval, and with under 15 minutes left to go on the clock, it's looking like that lead is only going to get bigger and bigger. 32 seconds ahead of Richard Cawthorne. But Rich hasn't necessarily been running a bad race. He's just been absolutely chipping away and doing everything right here. He's still ahead of Ben Chalcraft by quite the margin as well. But these guys, they've just had to stick with it, Paul, because with the smaller grid that we've got this week, it's just 3 points, surely.
Yeah, precisely. Points for all our viewers from the UK watching. You'll know this one from game shows of yesteryear. Points, they make the prizes. The points make prizes. You've got to be in it to win it. You need to take it to the flag, because at the end of the day, when the championship comes to its conclusion, if you've left points on the table by leaving early or mistakes or whatever it might be, that could cost big time when everything's tallied up and we decide who the champion will be. So Richard Crawford has done has done an absolutely solid job. He's a few tenths away from Romano in terms of overall lap pace, but he's navigated the traffic, he's navigated the jeopardy that befalls every driver here at Snetterton like a champ, and it'll be a relatively satisfied, I think, second place. Should things stay the same, of course. 13 minutes to go. Anything can and usually does happen. So no guarantees just yet, as Henry Morse was hoping those 13 minutes can be used rather well indeed, because he's got a position to take for the race lead.
Yeah, Henry, a front runner in the previous British Boring Car Championship. He used to race against the likes of Jake Cranstone back in that series as well. I'm just trying to actually grab the results from last season, because honestly, in Season 3, it was that close between him and Jake at the end of the season. They were only separated, well, they were separated by 13 points at the end, but Henry took the title. There was 4 points in it for the team's championship, but Henry and Jake, I think going into like the final race meeting of the season where we had 2 races each, there was only 1 point between them, and it was just amazing to see such a great battle between the two of them, because it was all about perseverance and keeping it tidy, because at the end of the day, in a lot of series like that, like we did, you had qualifying to set the grid for race 1, but then you had a reverse grid element to race 2, so you don't just show out and out pace and, you know, lights to flag victories all the time. You had to be patient and come through the pack cleanly as well and stay out of trouble in the second race to score good points over the entire evening. And some of these drivers, you know, they showed that they're better at it than others, Henry being one of those drivers. That's how he got it to work. Stephen King has always been an exciting driver to commentate on. He and Jack were teammates in a number of my series in the past, and, you know, sometimes his own worst enemy, but always fast and always exciting, and that's what he's brought here tonight. You know, he's played the strategy game in the right time, and he's just put the car in the right part of the circuit when he needs to. He finds himself leading with 11.5 minutes to go, and I don't know if he's going to hold on or not here, because it depends on how hard he defends from Henry Morse.
Yeah, it's looking very, very difficult, isn't it, for Stephen King at this moment in time. He's being gobbled up by Henry Morse behind. This is our race leader, Giovanni Romano. Different class, of course, watching disappear. Nitros enabled. Goodbye, boys. Thank you very much. And that's wonderful news for Stephen King. He would have been very worried that traffic is one of the biggest jeopardy points for that VW Jetta driver, holding on to his class lead. Other cars involved, you have to get out of the way. There's blue flags, of course. You'll be penalised if you don't, and that could really, really jeopardise this defensive drive. But Stephen King, 10 minutes and 46 seconds to hold on in a car that punches a big old hole in the air, and a very, very competitive rival behind you. I would not want to be in the seat of that virtual cockpit right now, because this is going to be quite the task to hold on.
Absolutely is. Austin Tucker's task is looking a little bit easier at this point, despite the incident with Jack Johns earlier. Ryan Chevalier is only 7 seconds back, though, and to be fair, the front end of that car doesn't, although actually no, it took the hit on the front left, it doesn't necessarily look like it's been in a war with a Volkswagen Jetta, to be honest. It looks alright. It's got a few dents and scrapes in it, but it's not absolutely battered. And he's still setting, I mean, his lap time last time was 0.3 of a second quicker than Austin Tucker. So what you said earlier, Paul, about it not affecting his pace, definitely is not the case. He's been all good since then. And as we go into the last 10 minutes, I wonder whether he'll be able to completely break that gap. Now, we've got a funny moment in the background here as Miles Owens in the MX-5 has the GR86 behind him, which he will eventually, I imagine, outdrag. But the BMW of Giovanni Romano flies on by. And this is the look from the MX-5. I expected him to outrun the 86 here, to be honest with you. We saw it at Charlotte Roval, but seems like on the straights here, the GR86 does have enough poke to get up to its top end.
And I think Miles possibly did give it just a little bit of a lift to try and avoid both cars converging at the apex of the corner, which obviously is never a good time for anybody. So clever bit of driving from Miles Owens, if that was the case. And I do like that one, racing intelligence. It's something that's very, very underrated amongst race car drivers. Intelligence in general is very underrated for race car drivers. And it is good to see. It's good to see. I've cut a few off camera from time to time, and they can get leery. It has to be said, I must have. You know those stories as well. In fact, I often text you when they happen with little videos to show you.
Yeah.
Chris Schoenfer, he's another driver that I've got a shout out for. Chris has had a world of pain here at Snetterton, and he's gamely sticking to it. So good lad for Chris to keep that car going in a very, very respectable 4th position.
Yeah, he got it fixed earlier on after some pretty severe damage, but yeah, he's been very, very solid since then. He runs 4th in class. He's not really threatening the podium, but at the end of the day, he's going to get some great championship points for this one because, as we've said a few times, a bit of a smaller grid here this evening in the penultimate round of the championship, and all of them will pretty much score points so long as they finish. We've lost 5 cars from the race so far, 2 in the VW Jettas, which are Sam Van Alsten, Eric Manenveld, Antonio Alvarez from the BMW M2s, Carson Catlin in the Toyota GR86s, and then Justin Michaela did not take the start of the race, unfortunately, so did not join the grid at all. But hopefully Justin will be back with us for the season finale, which will be in, well, I believe, a week's time. We have the 2nd of February as the season finale, and we are going to be completing the season. But it's pretty safe to say, Paul, that I think with the potential result that Giovanni has here, as he almost broke behind Ryan there like an AI, didn't he? Just sort of straight up to the back of the car in front, no intention of going round it, just slammed on. But
it must be boring being so good. It must be absolutely dull as dishwater to know that you're just going to whoop everybody and just take it to the flag. I am so glad that I'm incompetent, which is a lot more fun.
That's one for the quote bank, that is. I'm so glad I'm incompetent because it's a lot more fun.
It's true. It is true. I can always guarantee that I'm having a fight. While Chaz Draycott's having a small breakdown, let's have a look with 6 minutes and 56 seconds left on the clock. Game on in many classes apart from the BMWs.
Yes, absolutely. Paul is. I've told Paul many a time about a humongous note of incredible quotes in my phone. Paul was actually the person I started it for when we had our first FIA Motorsport Games meeting together in Nice. And there's many.
Less said about that on camera, the better.
Yeah, there's many in there that cannot be broadcasted. But oh, good God, that's a belter for it, and I'm going to use that one more often as an excuse. Still, Tom Weston, he's, you know what? Like I said before, it may not sound or look or be a 787, but he's actually, Mazda or Boeing. But he's actually flying up to the back of these massive Jettas right now. No, this shows you the size of the Jetta a lot more. And he's sort of saying, all right, boys, just bear with me. Let me just get this over and done with, and I'll be out your hair. Now, the thing is here, he wants to unlap himself, but Stephen King's not going to want to back out of this. And you know what? Thomas has done the right thing there. He says, no, I don't want to ruin your class lead battle, so I'm not going to overtake one of you and not the other. I'm just not going to overtake either of you at any stage. I wonder how long he's going to have to sit behind these guys.
I love that. I absolutely love that. That is, I'm going to give a massive shout out for Thomas Weston, because a lot of drivers would have thought about themselves being a little bit selfish if gap go car, but Thomas Weston, very, very considerate, doesn't want to spoil things for the 2 drivers in front, and I genuinely, that's one of the best bit of driving I've seen in a long time from Thomas Weston. Well done.
Yeah, he backed out at the right moment to make sure he didn't ruin Henry Morse's race and didn't sort of knock him down a peg, or Stephen King as well, because Stephen would have been thinking about that. If he would have got past Henry and then not Stephen, he would have been thinking a lot as round the outside. Henry Morse at turn 1, take a bow, sunshine. That's why he's British Boring Car Champion, and he gets ahead of Stephen King. There is an MX-5 still in there, we promise you. Do not adjust your sets, or whatever the phrase is. He is still in there, but yeah, Thomas Weston at this stage, he is just holding fire on making a move. There's only 5 minutes this race left to go. He is not in a position that can be lost. He is actually the last running MX-5 at the moment, but that does not take away from the great driving that he has just displayed there. Really selfless stuff, great sportsmanship. I wonder whether that's going to change and he's going to throw it down the inside of either of these guys now. The gap has gotten bigger. But Henry Morse back into the lead of this race. And to be fair, Paul, with the difficult-ish season that he's had in these Jettas, he's done an excellent, excellent job there.
Yeah, really has. That's been sensational, to be fair. That's a beautiful pass. And again, it takes 2 to tango. So good as it was from Henry Morse, it was also very, very clever driving to give him the racing room he commanded from Stephen King. Now's Thomas Weston's chance. The gap has developed a little bit between these two. So if you're Weston, you probably feel a bit more inclined to throw the car at the inside, and this is the opportunity. Yeah. You can almost feel the Mazda running out of breath. Windscreen wipers ablaze. I don't know if that's to get him faster in a straight line or not, but Weston will have got it done, I think, before we hit the braking zone. For the left-hander under the bridge, And yes, he has. Very, very neatly done. Well played, son. Well
Yeah, and that affects their race a lot less as well. You know, he's in a big enough gap now where him putting that car there doesn't change whether Stephen King is ahead of Henry Morse or not. But Henry is, I mean, there's no other way of saying it, he's absolutely pulling away from Stephen now. I wonder whether Stephen saved time earlier on tyres or something. I'm not quite sure. Their last pit stops were very similar in length. Henry Morse's was actually 19.4 seconds, 0.7 of a second longer than Stephen King. Hopefully his internet holds out before the end of this race. But yeah, that is certainly an impression made by Henry Morse there, isn't it? He has got ahead of Stephen and not looked back at all. Great stuff.
Yeah, really, really good stuff. Of course, it makes it difficult for Stephen that he's got a bit of traffic around him, so your concentration falls away slightly, but you're concentrating on the car that's putting the lap on you. Defensive line for Henry Morse. Hopefully he's seen that little Mazda. Not quite sure exactly why he's defending from a car on a different lap. That's not necessarily the best course of action. And if I'm Thomas Weston, just get out pit lane, mate. Just get out, go out, because this is not working out so well for you.
No, it's really not, actually, is it? He's not having the easiest time of this. Richard Cawthron goes through as well. He's had a really solid run in second place. He's going to be really pleased with this. Some big championship points coming his way. And right now, we've got 3 drivers from 3 very different classes all together on the circuit. Actually, you know what? Thomas Weston is fighting Henry Morse for overall position, in fairness to him. But obviously, different classes. That's the thing. Different classes, and they only score points based on their class position, not their overall position. So Henry wouldn't really worry too much about having the MX-5 overtake him, and with the natural rear-wheel drive nature of the MX-5, I was going to say he's going to get a run, but then he's hit the rev limiter on the exit, so he's not helping himself. Look at the size difference of these two cars. It's almost comical, but Henry can back out of this one earlier and just let him through. Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's a scary, scary place for that particular incident to happen, so good from Henry to... he lost a couple of tenths, but it's better to do that than retire.
Giovanni Romano... He's just set the fastest lap of the race.
You know what? That's not going to go unnoticed from his rivals. And if anybody even had a glimmer of hope that they were going to be able to challenge in the next race, wave goodbye to that one, because that's sickening as a driver.
That's disgusting.
They've dominated you and still gone quicker at the end. Man.
He's just done a 2 minutes, 0.42. He's nearly gone sub 2 minutes. Richard Cawthron crosses the line. And with no disrespect to Richard, his previous lap was a 2 minutes 2.2. So he's just gone 1.8 seconds slower than Giovanni Romano on that lap. Ben Chalcraft's doing 2:01.8, so he's a few tenths of a second ahead of Rich in terms of lap pace. But Rich doesn't need to push at this point, neither does Ben. Giovanni doesn't. Giovanni's the one that needs to push the least. But he's just saying, look, he's like, look, boys, I've done this and I've still got some in my back pocket. He's just saying, look, I'm there. I know what I'm doing. I've still got it. It's just incredible. Absolutely incredible. There's 30 seconds left as well. This will be the last lap of the race.
It feels like he should be just sat there with a big cigar and maybe a glass of whiskey in his hand as well. That's how comfortable things have been. It's been a dominant performance. There's no 2 ways about it, Chaz. This has been a commensurate drive. No mistakes. Wild power. Great stuff from Romano. Really impressive.
And, you know, without jumping the gun too much, I'd say that this would seal the championship for him. He's had 3 race victories. Nobody else has consistently finished on the podium this season, actually. He's just been such a dominant force as Giovanni. A lovely bloke as well. We'll probably speak to him after this. But wherever you're watching from in the chat, give a massive round of applause to Giovanni Romano. Superlatives fail us here as he takes the win in round 3 at Snetterton in the FTR Events Production Car Challenge Plus. Epic drive from him. The next class across the line is going to be the GR86s, and he may not win livery of the season, but Austin Tucker, he's going to take a great win here at Snetterton, Paul. Very well constructed drive.
Yep, absolutely superb stuff. Soaked the pressure up when he needed to, showed the pace when he needed to, and absolute key to that performance was pushing when you needed to push. Looking at the beautiful, beautiful VW Jettas, that's been an incredible class all the way through. But Henry Morse, he's come through all of the drama relatively unscathed, pushed at the end as well, just to put the final seal on the victory, and that is a beautiful, beautiful drive and a very well-deserved win for Henry Morse in the VW Jetta class.
Great stuff that is by Henry. Very well done indeed. Another absolutely beautiful drive. And he shows them all who's boss here tonight. It looked like he was down and out after the pit stops and he dropped a load of time. But obviously he was working on a strategy that the others didn't quite have their eye on. Martin Pearson, well, his strategy has just been gun it. He's been in the fight at the front all the way through this race, hasn't he, Paul? He's constantly been amongst other drivers. And it looked like at one point Chris Flamion was going to be the driver to beat. And right now, Martin Pearson is going to be feeling very smug as he puts one hand on the title, surely, in this season of the FTR PCC Plus.
Yeah, Martin's probably the driver that's had to work the hardest for his class victory. We've seen him involved in battles pretty much throughout, but when it absolutely matters, Pearson has really pulled the plug at the final few corner laps. Fantastic drive again from him.
Yeah, indeed. I wonder whether he's going to get overtaken by this BMW before the line or not. That's going to be Pedro Barbosa crossing the line to complete 49 laps here at Snetterton. Pearson weaves left and right. He knows what he's done. He's won his class here at Snetterton. Very well done indeed. And the BMW just doesn't beat him to the line. But wow, we, like I say, ran out of superlatives for this fantastic gentleman, Giovanni Romano. And he completes the evening with another win to add to his tally, Paul. And I mean, it looked like he was challenged slightly at the beginning by Richard Cawthron, but that definitely wasn't the case, was it?
Yeah, I think it's more a case of just keeping himself entertained, quite frankly. Such has been the level of dominance. It's so difficult to win any race, but then when you win and you soak up the pressure and you deliver lap after lap, competitive lap times, making no mistakes, it's so deeply impressive, Chaz. And here are our provisional finishing positions.
Yeah, well, you know what? We'll give you the overall positions in one. Give it all in one go, why not? Giovanni Romano takes the race victory. Richard Cawthron finishes in second place with Ben Chalcraft in third. Well done to Ben on another podium. Brooks Clayton in fourth ahead of Pedro Barbosa. Then in the GR86s, Austin Tucker takes the win there ahead of Ryan Chevalier, Georg Gruber and Chris Schofer. And then Paul, why don't you take it away with the rest of the field, mate?
Yep, so 11th overall, but first in class for the Mazdas, Martin Pearson takes a beautiful race streak victory from Chris Flamion in second place. Alex King rounds out the Mazda class podiums in third, 12th overall. Matt Acton is 13th and 4th in class. Miles Owens is 14th and 5th position in the Mazdas. John Payton is a bit of an outlier, 15th overall, is one of the Toyota GR86 drivers. He finishes 5th in the GR86 class. Tom Weston, despite all of the dramas in the 787, comes home 16th overall. Cycling down to the VW Jetta class, it is Henry Morse that takes the race victory from Patrick Dopart in second, and in third position is Stephen King in the number 22 machine. Jermaine Agard finishes in 4th overall. Jack Johns, he had a lively race, didn't he? 21st overall, 5th position in class. Sam Van Als and Eric Manitveld, unfortunately, don't see the checkered flag alongside Antonio Alvarez, Carson Catlin and Justin Michaela. Did not start the race, but is classified 26th.
Thanks very much, Paul. We will have a look then, see who is free, because we need to have a chat with some drivers and see who we've got ready to have a word. I tell you what, why don't we have a word with our race winner, Giovanni Romano. Giovanni, we said we'd hopefully speak to you at the end of that one. Again, another pain-free night for you. The BM looked really good around here at Snetterton. How do you feel?
Well, I feel pretty good. It was a fun race. Snetterton's not a track you get to race often, and it's kind of fun relearning it after not driving it for a few years.
What's it like in the BMW, though? Because while we know this car's got a huge amount of power down the straights, I mean, it's got power everywhere, but you know, it shows off its performance down the big straights. It didn't look like it was particularly lively on the infield either. Was it a different story behind the wheel?
No, that's pretty much it. It's got, this thing's got the straight line speed of a GT4, but none of the brakes or the aero or any of that stuff, so it's the worst car. Like, of all the cars here, it's the worst one in the corners, so it's a bit of a... It's interesting because it doesn't look like a big car, but it is relatively a pig, so... but that's kind of why I like it, though, so it's fun.
And obviously with this result, you've pretty much put both hands on the title with one round to go this season. How have you felt like your championship's gone overall, though? Because, I mean, there's not much to say about it, but it's just gone well, hasn't it?
Well, yeah, I think the only thing that's annoying or disappointing is that some of the guys who are competing against me weren't here tonight, because I think that would have made for a more interesting race. Although Richard did keep me honest. I think up until the last pit stop, I was only 15 seconds behind, so within a mistake or something behind me. But then I didn't see what happened to him after that. He dropped off a bunch. So, but championship good, but still one more race to go. And Daytona could be maybe play out a little differently, because it's a draft track. So
Indeed.
Anything can happen there.
Absolutely, and we hope it does. We'll have to wait and see, Giovanni. But is there anyone you'd like to give a quick shout out to before you go?
Just to my HJ teammates. Chris pulled off podium in the Miatas, and congrats to Austin, who you're going to be talking to in a minute, for the win in the 8.6.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, mate. Well done on the result, and we'll hopefully speak to you again soon.
Yep, thanks.
Cheers. Giovanni Romano, lovely, lovely gentleman, and scary fast, Paul.
It really is, and you made a mistake not asking him, is it boring to be so competitive? Because he just sounds like a man who's unflustered. It's just a man who's like, yep, I came here to win, and bang, I've won. What's next?
Absolutely. And he alluded to the interview, and we get to speak to the wonderful Austin Tucker. Austin, welcome to the box, mate. You must be pretty chuffed with that result tonight, because those GR86s, I mean, everyone around you was constantly after a fight.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, it was, I tried to pull out early to see if I could, but I wasn't going to get away from Ryan and Jorg, so I just figured I'd settle in, and Ryan seemed more than happy to lead the way, so I settled in behind him and just saved some fuel to the end, and that seemed to have made the difference.
I was going to say, was it mainly strategy that saved the race at the end? Because on a circuit like Snetterton, it's not too easy to save fuel, but obviously with the start-finish straight and the back straight being so long, you can get a little opportunity here and there as long as you're in a pack, can't you?
Yes, absolutely. I was lifting up, let's say into the left sweeper and hard right at the end of the back straight. We normally break about the 1 or after, and I would lift at the 3, so I could get a pretty good run there and save quite a bit of fuel. And yeah, I think so. Ryan went a lap shorter than us on the first stint. I think it would have gone the same way again if we ran the second stint all the way out. So that's almost a gallon or more less fuel I took at the end. And like I said, that seemed to be enough to make the difference and get out ahead of him. And so I just managed the gap to him there at the end.
Well, it's worked out brilliantly for you, Austin, and a fantastic class win. Is there any sort of positive vibes towards Daytona, or are you sick of driving that place? Did you do the 24?
I did do the 24. The 24 was the only Daytona race I did that week, so I'm not completely over it. Yeah, so I'm not completely over it, but it'll certainly be an interesting one. See if I don't know the pace difference in the classes, but I could see the 8.6s and Miatas ending up running together depending on how things go. So
should be good fun.
Looking forward to it.
And is there anyone you'd like to give a quick shout out to before you go?
Once again, just to my team for coming out here and helping make a fairly boring drive in the park a bit less boring. And then, of course, to Tyler, as always, who made the paint.
Fair play, mate. Well, great to speak to you, Austin. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks.
Cheers. We'll very, very quickly move on, though, because we now have to jump to the next class winner, Martin Pearson. Martin, welcome to the commentary box. You must be very, very pleased with how that one turned out, because that was a busy old time in the MX-5s for most of that race, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, really pleased. It only really came unstuck, or the final stop really as to what would happen. So you can see me on screen. I took one tyre, so that kind of made the difference. Yeah, really happy with that. I didn't actually put enough fuel in at the final stop to run flat out.
Oh, wow.
So my calculations at the beginning weren't enough, but managed to manage the gap and came home with the second win of the series.
Well, that's what Paul and I were talking about at the sort of midpoint of the race, was that it's not just down to out-and-out pace around this as well. You have to be really clever with where you place the car, when you choose your battles, and how you sort of show off, not maybe show off, but the body language of how you give away your strategy to the other competitors. It's a bit of mind games, isn't it, for an hour and 40 minutes?
Yeah, it is, because I led a lot of the first fuel stint, and was a lap short compared to Miles and Christopher, and then I was happy not to lead the second stint. But then all kind of hell broke loose when Miles spun, and I think it was Thomas Weston spun as well. So it's that was a cat amongst the pigeons. And then I got a slowdown as well on the infield. So tried to clear that, but that meant I lost the draft to Christopher, and I was starting to sweat at that point. That's for sure.
Well, it certainly looked like hard work all the way around, but it looked very enjoyable all the same. Have you had a very enjoyable season, would you say, with these guys?
2 out of 3 races, yeah. I've got 2 wins, and I win or bin at the moment, it seems. I've binned it on lap 4 in front of a load of Jettas at Charlotte, which wasn't the cleverest of things. But the MX-5 is a great car to drive if you get it set up right and it doesn't bite you. And yeah, the multi-class nature of the series is lovely too. So it's a nice way to spend a Sunday evening.
Absolutely, I'm with you on that. It's great to spend it up here as well with Paul. But is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before you go, Martin?
Just the Backmarker Racing crew. We've had a successful time at Daytona recently, and that's been really, really good fun. So I think the team's on a bit of a high at the moment. It's good fun. Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, having fun, Martin. Thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to speaking to you again at Daytona. Have a good one.
I hope so. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Martin Pearson, lovely bloke. And like he said, it's all down to calculations and numbers and so on, isn't it, Paul, really? Even in what seems like a straightforward race in the MX-5s, run it until it runs out of fuel. You've got to try a strategy. You've got to think of something to just try and outsmart your opponents.
1000%. It's more than just racing on track. It's a high-speed game of chess, it was once called. And I absolutely agree with that sentiment. There's so much that goes into driving a competitive race, certainly at the level that we're seeing here at the FTR events as well. All of these drivers, very, very talented, putting on a great show. And that hour and 40 minutes absolutely whipped by.
It really did. I don't know if it did for Henry Morse, because he certainly had to work very hard to make that work in the end. But Henry, you must be really pleased to come away with a race victory there, because that didn't look as straightforward as you've had them before. He is muted at the moment, though. Henry, are you there, sunshine? I don't know if he's just gone shy or not, whether he can't speak in here, I don't know. It doesn't seem like we can get a word from. Yeah, we'll throw Henry back. He's actually, you know what? Apologies, Paul. Let's move down into the waiting room to speak to these guys, because it seems like it's muting them when they come up. So let's nip down there, shall we, and have a word. We'll nip down into the waiting room and speak to these gentlemen instead, shall we? So, Henry. That didn't look very easy. You must have been fighting pretty hard for that one, mate, because that wasn't straightforward, was it?
Yeah, no, I was pretty caught off guard, as you probably guessed, by the positioning of my pit stall. So I came in, and the countdown said 2-1. I was like, oh. Like by the time I started listening to it, I was next to my pit stall. I had to back up and get in there, and I was like, wow, 9 seconds is going to be a lot to catch up, or 9.5 or whatever it was. But, I looked at the time to go. It was like 70 minutes. I was like, okay, that's a long time. So I thought I was going to maybe be able to work my way up to third, because it's usually pretty hard to pass people here. But luckily I was able to work my way through that pack, and then it's hard for me to explain exactly why I seem to have so much more fuel, but I don't know. We've got good hardware down in the pit box, and definitely paid off this race. I even had an extra lap or a lap and a half at the end.
Well, that's only about 0.1 of a litre in the Jetta, isn't it, around here?
Yeah. No, I mean it. So the default fill amount of 3.9 or 8.2 liters, and I put in just 7.3 liters on my last stop. And if I filled it up the whole way, I probably would have come out behind that pack, and it would have been a lot harder for me to catch the leader. So it's really those fine margins.
Yeah, definitely. We were just saying to Martin Pearson then in the MX-5s, it's all about figuring out the numbers on the fly, isn't it? Even in a race that, from the outside, can look quite straightforward sometimes. I mean, the Jetta's not as straightforward as people think, is it?
Yeah, it's not. It's weird because the power band is not really all that steep.
What power band?
You can, right, so you can kind of find different shift points and different lifting coasts, especially at this track. There's huge potential for lifting and coasting. I upset Stevie quite a bit in the first stint with my lifting and coasting.
We did wonder.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of opportunity on this track and with this car to make something happen on the field strategy. And yeah, I did quite a bit of calculating. Had my trusty Texas Instruments right alongside me for doing those calculations. So yeah, that's how I knew how much less I could feel for that last stop, because I saved an extra lap or two, and I calculated that each lap was about 0.55 liters. So I accidentally gave myself about 1 extra lap. So that's why I didn't fill the full 8.2 liters, because I was like, look, the laps are about 2 minutes a lap, and there's because I wanted to get to 16 lap left, because I knew my first stint was 16 laps. So if I could get to within about 32, 33 minutes to go for my last stop, then I would be good to replicate that same stint. Where I was holding a lead, so I was in clean air while saving fuel, which is a lot harder. So I knew that if I gave myself that same amount of time, saving fuel in draft would be a lot easier. So I thought that'd be reasonable, and yeah, I definitely had enough fuel in the end there.
I was going to say, it's better to have too much than not enough in these circumstances. So I'm glad it went that way for you. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go, Henry?
Yeah, I know I had a pretty decent audience of family and friends. I know my parents and grandparents, and I think my aunt, and I know that a couple of my friends were watching. I know Gamer and her family was watching up north in San Jose. I just drove there for this morning.
Wow.
Got on the road at about 6 a.m. Was on the road for 5 hours this morning.
Just
got here in time to hop in and drive a full stint in practice and figure out where the field number was at. So yeah, lots of thanks to my family and friends who are watching and supporting.
Well, it's been great to speak to you as always, Henry. Lovely to see you on top in the Jettas once again, and hopefully see you back for boring cars later on in the year. And yeah, hopefully speak to you at Daytona in a week's time.
That's the plan, Chaz.
Cheers, man. Nice one. And we'll move very quickly on to the other gentleman that's in the room. Jack, you were out for blood tonight, weren't you? Flipping out, you had a lively race.
Oh, mate, it's every time. It's every time. It's good to be to speak to you again, Chaz, and jump in the interview room. But I missed it last time round. But I was quite happy sitting here listening to Henry talk about fuel. Just take the time of the race.
I was going to say, was with obviously we speak about the Racing Line Jetta TDI Cup when we're on air with you boys out there on track, and the great community that you lot built together, and how you all you find series with the Jetta in, and how you all just show everybody how it's done. Are you all chatting away when you're all racing, or is there a few groups of you and then a bit of a split?
It's always like you never know how it's going to go. Like the first race in Navarra was really nice, because it was the first time we've all been back together in nearly a year.
Yeah.
So it was like quite nostalgic for us, I guess. And no matter what happened, and like it was quite clear that in my time off that I'm not as quick as I used to be. I think I qualified P7 and stayed there. And then race 2, it kind of continued. Obviously, Jake's start was a little bit funny, and maybe not for some of the MX-5s. But again, I was off the pace and somehow blagged a win in that one. Just things went my way, and then it was the same here. Everything started off kind of civil, I think, in chat. For me personally, again, I was off the pace. I qualified 6th. Couldn't get into the 209s in practice, and then again by chance, I just found myself in 2nd, sort of fluctuating with Stevie, 1.1 seconds back, just staying there, getting closer, dropping back a bit, and thinking that I could do it again and just blag it. And then yeah, when it went wrong, it went really wrong. So and that's when it went quiet, I think, for the second that last part of the race. But no, it was good fun. It was a shame about the pit exits. I think I would have stayed with Patrick at the end there. The GR86, I think. I don't know if he didn't see me or if I just turned in or whatever. I don't know.
Well, I was going to say, lively is always how your races seem to go whenever I'm broadcasting them, so it's at least you're sticking to character. But it's mega to see you boys all on track again, mate, and it's been fantastic to have you as part of it. Will we see you in the finale at Daytona?
Yeah, should do. I think Stevie messages me the day before the race saying, "You come in," and then it reminds me, and then I turn up. It's easy for me because, like, realistically, I'm not working at this time. I'm sat in my work right now, but it is 2:30 in the morning. So
I was going to say, are you in one of the rigs at work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not really built for iRacing, if I'm honest, because the brake pedals don't move. They're like pressure based, so I can't trail brake. But I'm picking it up. I am learning to trail brake in them, but it's more difficult than it used to be. I'm trying to get a new rig at home so I can start playing again. I want to do boring cars and all your GT4 series with the boys and all that stuff. I want to get back into it, really.
Well, it'd be good to see you amongst all them, Jack. And of course, you know the question by now. Is there anyone else you'd like to give a shout out to before you go?
I probably don't have anyone watching for me, but I will say thank you to the Racing Line guys, actually, just for sticking around, coming back together, and keeping it fun.
Well, thank you very much, boys. Great to speak to both of you as always, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
See you soon, Chaz. Thank you.
Cheers. Well, let's drag ourselves back up then, Paul, and have a little roundup, because a great night. And again, I always love doing the interviews at the end of a night like that, because they're such great people, aren't they, behind a championship like this? And it's, you know, the league racing on iRacing is like real world club racing. You get such brilliant people behind it and such mixed characters, don't you? It's always heartwarming to see it after you've watched a race like that.
Yeah, thoroughly. I mean, when the virtual visor, of course, goes down, then the racing is as hard as it is anywhere else in the world. But it's the camaraderie. Every single driver here is here to have fun. It's to have a motor race. We all love racing. You and I love racing. Everybody on track loves racing. We want a clean, hard, fair and enjoyable race, and may the best man win at the end. And you've got to love that one. And it shows, I think, in some of the driving that we've seen. We've seen some real class performances, both in terms of competitiveness and the way that they race each other. And yeah, well, I think one of the guys mentioned, I forget which driver it was, but one of the guys said, what a way to spend a Sunday night. Could not agree more.
Absolutely. Well, it's been fantastic fun to have you in the box once again, Paul. Thank you so much for jumping in. Thank you all for watching here tonight, as you've been watching the FTR Events Production Car Challenge Plus here on Chaz Draycott Media with me, Chaz Draycott, and Paul Jeffrey in the box. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we'll see you in a week's time for the finale at Daytona. We'll see you then.
And look at Jochen Hahn and Antonio Albacete. The two of them go flying through the right-hand side, then the left-hand side. Jochen Hahn around the outside, and Lucas Hahn, no father and son, come together on the exit of turn one.
And the best thing about this is the fact that it's still a 15-minute sprint race. They've not extended the time of the race. It's still just like, it's going to be, 7 laps of Spa-Francorchamps?
We get to the real nitty-gritty of motorsport. Cranston and Snetterton side by side for the title in the very final race of the season. As they go back up the hill towards the Schumacher S. Nils Kor clips the back at 10. Simon Povey clips the side of Nils Kor. They go over the hill and Povey's around.
Oh my god, that's going to definitely be the thumbnail, isn't it? Hit me in the right direction. Thank you so much.
23 cars.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.